The Hop Edition podcast is brought to you in association with Brew Keg Tap, the number one choice for all your beer dispense and kegging needs, and specialists in the supply of Kegland brewing equipment to the UK market. So next time you're in need of taps, kegs, or anything with a Zilla on the end, get over to brewkegtap.co.uk and tell them the Hop Edition sent you. We would also like to thank all our patrons for their continued support with running and developing the pod. If you would like to become a member and gain access to exclusive perks and benefits, head over to patreon.com/The Hop Edition podcast. Now pour yourself a cold one and enjoy the episode.
Hey! Monday babies. Right, welcome laddies, lassies, to another fine episode of the Hop Edition podcast. Today we've got a topic that is as warming as a wee dram, a single malt and a cold Highland evening. Episode 75, cost-effective ways to improve your homebrewing. Now, while these may not appear to save you money in the short term, they may well very indeed in the long term, and most importantly, they'll improve your beer. There you go. Scotland! Scottish! We're tight as a badger's arse.
Oh, that was outstanding.
Oh dear.
That's a good one. That was a good one.
We joke.
Just in case anyone was wondering what was going on there was a little
Scottish
bit of
music.
association between Scottishness and wanting to scrimp on the pennies.
Yeah.
Could have been Yorkshire as well, to be fair. But...
He's not wrong.
Yeah.
He's not wrong. Yes. So, welcome to the Hop Edition again. This is episode 75, as Andy has just said.
Yep.
And what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be looking at some cost-effective ways to improve your brewing. Now, Andy's already said it, but it's very important to remember that whilst there is an association with a lot of home brewers about saving money,
Yeah.
the reality is, in order to make better beer, sometimes you have to spend more money up front in order to save money in the long term. So some of these you're going to think, really? Do I really need to do that in order to improve my beer? And is it a cost-effective way, really? Mm-hmm. We're going to explain to you, with all of the things that we're going to talk about, why it is that doing them that way is going to save you money. All right? So trust us, because we've thought about this quite a lot.
Yeah, this is kind of a follow-up to the episode where we went through lots of ways that you can spend shitloads of money and not necessarily improve anything.
The true cost.
It's the true cost. So we thought we'd do an episode where we try and dig into the things that will give you the biggest kind of bang for your buck as far as if you're going to make changes or investments in particular areas. And from our own personal experience and what we know of, you know, the options that you do have in various areas, where can you invest hopefully a little bit of money for maximum impact as far as your brewing goes. So it's not purely about just saving money, it's about actually getting improvement whilst making reasonable amounts of investment. So hopefully we've kind of explained the concept there.
Yeah.
So let's do the usual intro and go round. Do the round robin of what you're drinking.
Yep.
So, Andy, go for it.
Yeah. So I've got my Sabro Pale Ale. That's just absolutely. I think it's about a few months old now, but it's just so beautiful. It's dead juicy. It's that total tropical vibes. I'm just trying. I called it Sabro Spring. Oh yeah, Sabro and Idaho 7. With a Columbus bittering at the start, Sabro Idaho 7 30-minute Whirlpool, and then a Sabro Idaho 7 5-day dry hop, and it was Pops, White Wheat, and Caragold. So it's like a vacant base, but it turned out, I'm sure it turned out more like 5% or something like that. But it's quite dark on this, but it's not, it's like more like slightly orangey sort of thing going on. And it was London L3 as well as the yeast, so it's great. Such a great pale ale. So yeah, that's what I'm drinking.
Nice.
Is it me now?
Go on, Chris.
Owen's arrived. Hello, Owen. Love you, man.
Hi.
Owen's been
Okay.
had a busy night.
Can't
Oh.
hear Andy or Chris as their lights are not on.
Your
What?
recording lights. I think
Oh,
he's joking.
What a
Jeez,
legend.
hang on. Well said, Martin.
amateurs,
Well
mate.
said, mate.
It's a good point.
Amateurs.
I don't need to get up to turn mine on. Though. I
Nothing
can just
works
do
if you
that.
haven't got the neon on.
I'm sorry. Sorry, Martin. Sorry. I'm drinking what appears to be the last, well, dregs, honestly, dregs of Hebrews 24/7. The keg
Wow.
it's taken a battering. It's taken a bit of a battering. And I'm down
Is
to
it
the end of
tasting?
it.
Is it tasting good, Chris?
It's tasting absolutely smegging fantastic, son.
So you know it's about a kick.
I know it's, well, literally there was about that much foam in the top of the glass, so I know it's pretty much cake. Luckily for me, though, being Yorkshireman and tight, and this is a cost-effective brewing improvement, is what I've done is I kegged the full keg, and then there was some left, so I put it into a 5-litre mini keg, and that's been sitting on gas. So now that the main keg's finished, I can put on the 5-litre mini keg. It's not full. There's only about 3.5, 4 litres in it.
Yeah.
But I can smash that as well the rest of this week. So
There you go.
yeah. Oh,
Get yourself buy a mini keg.
is that coming through my ears? Can you guys hear that dinging?
No?
No. Okay, that's good. It must be coming through my earphones then. But yeah, absolutely banging beer. Will be getting made again. I've actually just ordered 4 sachets of yeast, 2 of Omega's Kolsch 1 of Hop Unlock, and what was the other one I ordered? West Yorkshire. So yeah, I'm going to be doing some brewing. But as is always the way, the 6-week holidays with the kids, when do you get a chance to brew? Answer is never. It's my biggest holiday, and I don't get a chance to brew a goddamn thing. So you know, welcome to life as a parent. There we go. So I'm good. I'm loving this. It's a great beer, and there's still a lot of flavour and a hell of a lot of aroma coming off of this beer as a result of, I think, the hop unlock, the thiols and stuff that are in here. Very, very nice beer.
Cool.
Oh, recipe will be on the Discord for our Patreons at the end of this episode.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
I've got my version of the Murgy Straight recipe, which I had a good chat with Andy from Four Priest Brewery about on my channel. And this is the kind of Citra and what is it? Citra Talus, like modern kind of golden ale that he makes. And I've had it on the hand pull. It's just about sort of clearing a little bit now, but I did have to throw some gelatin at this one because it was refusing to clear. I was US05 and even a modest amount of dry hopping. It's you either have to leave it for ages or put some kind of fining in there, I find. And I think if it is on the hand pull, it's nice to get a little bit of better clarity in it.
Yeah, you wouldn't be too bothered if it was on the draft.
Yeah,
would you?
exactly. Well, I was just putting it through the normal tap initially to give it a quick tester, and it didn't bother me at all. But then as soon as it's on the hand pull, you sort of like, for whatever reason, it's that association
totally.
of not having the murky beers. But it's a lovely pint, very drinkable. I think my one's a little bit different in character to the OG. So the it's got a little bit more of a kind of hoppy sort of bite to it, I think.
Compared to the OG?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, to be fair, the bottles that I got from Andy, he bottled them quite a long time ago, so I think they'd mellowed out quite a bit, whereas obviously this one's fairly
this
fresh.
is fresh.
So I think that might be one of the main things that's differentiating the two, but really nice kind of citrusy, lemony kind of kick to it, and then a little bit of that, like where Talus gives you a little bit of that kind of herbal note in the background as well, which is quite nice. So yeah, it's really good. I would recommend people have a go at that, and it's definitely a nice one to put on hand pull for something a little bit more, modern sort of tasting. As far as the
Tricky.
you could do this or like the it's in a similar sort of vein to Vacant Gesture or whatever.
Yeah, tricky. Guess what I've got for my commercial tonight?
Murgy.
Yeah.
Nice.
I was very lucky actually. Stewie actually, just out of the generosity of his heart, sent me 2 bottles of Murky in the
Oh,
post.
excellent.
Absolute legend.
Well,
So yeah, I'll be trying it on the pod tonight.
cool.
Lovely stuff. Right, it's just me to go then. Can you guys hear me all right?
Yeah, good.
Good. All right, thought I'd check. I'm gonna jump in with the first cost-effective brewing tip, and that is get other people to send you beer. So I'm drinking a beer from Harmon
nice.
Brewing. Old Bretsky was kind enough to send me a bottle of his Helles, and it wasn't just the Helles, there was a number of other beers in the box, so a big thank you to Brett. Very, very generous. So this is a 5% Helles, and if you have a look at the clarity on that, I mean, I don't think it gets much.
Oh
clearer than
wow.
that.
Yeah, that is clear.
That is really good, isn't it? You
That
can see
is-
That's absolute gin clear.
Has that been
Yeah.
gelatined?
Oh,
Brett, I
don't
know you're in the chat.
You'll
Let
have
us
to
know
ask
if that's
Brett.
been gelatined.
But I would say, on the nose, you're getting a lovely, noble hop character on the aroma. You're getting this kind of sweetness from the malt. It's kind of honey, predominantly kind of honey vibe. Sort of freshly baked cake. And you're also getting just a little touch of sulphur, which is not off-putting. Just kind of reminds you it's a lager. And on the taste, it's lovely and sweet. It's nailed the bitterness for the style. And you just get a really nice kind of noble hop character in there as well. I think correct me if I'm wrong, Brett, feels like there might be a bit of Tetnang in there.
What is so Brett's came out and says that he's put Browsol?
Browsol.
Anyway,
Isn't that the stuff that helps to reduce foaming, maybe?
Brow
I'm
salt
gonna Google
P is a
Oh, there we go.
it's a fining agent which is silica based, forms a mesh on the top of your beer, is affected by gravity, and as it drops through the beer it acts as a particulate filter and clears from the top down. It's a wonderful product and I can highly
Vegan?
recommend it.
Yeah,
Vegan?
vegan
Very
friendly
vegan.
as well.
It's silica, so it's not animal based at all.
Yeah. Absolutely banging beer, Brett. I'll raise this one to you. It's absolutely cracking. Thank you very much. Very much enjoying it.
And it also complies with the German purity law regulations in Section 9 of the Provisional Beer Law. There you go.
Wow.
So,
Excellent.
run Heißgebot.
Reinheitsgebot.
Yep.
Yes. My favourite word in the world.
You literally have to correct everyone that ever
Yes.
says that word, don't you?
Absolutely.
Even though if they pronounced it correctly.
Yes.
Yeah.
I still have to join in and say it 'cause it's a wonderful, wonderful world.
There you
Shall
go.
we dive straight in? And just, Owen, you might want to listen to the start of this podcast. Because
Whoa.
you kind of missed it. You weren't
Yeah,
here.
I did.
Oh, for the planning.
I'm sorry about that. It's
Don't
been a-
apologise,
it's been a bit of
right,
a
no.
day.
No, it's quite funny.
EKG and UK Chinook apparently were the hops.
Oh, okay. All right.
Brett, feel free to post that on the Discord for our wonderful Patreons, because if Owen's raving about it, considering he's got a Kolsch on his taps at the minute, which is pretty spectacular, and took a bit of a beating last weekend, I'll be honest, you might want to put that one up, because I've got a feeling that hop combination is going to be one that people may want to try. So stick him on the Discord chat if you wouldn't mind, mate. That'd be ace. Right, let's jump in. We've got this down into sections. Again, I will reiterate, some of these may not seem like they're going to be saving you money, but the idea is for it to be a cost-effective brewing improvement, not necessarily a cost-effective money-saving tip. Okay, he's not going to post that because it's his beer recipe. Unlucky people, sorry. I'm sure will you post it after the competition, Brett?
I had a feeling when he said both of them UK hops, I thought, I bet that's the beer he's putting in for that one.
Why is it whenever somebody says, I've got a feeling, I want to go, anyway.
Just
I'm
don't,
sure
just
Brett
don't.
will post the recipe after the BrewCon Pro-Am Con.
After he wins
is-
the BrewCon Pro-Am, he'll probably
If
be,
he wins the BrewCon Pro-Am, I
putting the
will lift
recipe
him on
up
my
anyway.
shoulders. I will lift him on my shoulders and parade him around for 5 minutes. Anyway, so we've got this separated out into sections, all right? First one, equipment essentials. Now, this note session that we did, we may have utilised a certain AI to give us some basic ideas, of which we edited 95% out because they
Totally
weren't very
did, yeah.
good. And we've actually put in quite a lot of our own. So this isn't a podcast brought to you by ChatGPT. This is a podcast brought to you by ChatGPT for ideas. Us decided ChatGPT knows fuck all, and then us editing it so it actually had some
And
appropriate
in some
ideas
cases,
in it.
the titles aren't necessarily that relevant anymore because we've edited it so much. So the first one should probably be cleaning essentials rather than equipment essentials. But anyway,
But there is equipment stuff to go in there. I don't know whether it's
Kind of,
included
yeah.
later on. It may well be.
Yeah.
So the first one is the very easiest way to avoid spending money on your beer. Okay, is
Or losing.
losing money.
The easiest way to fuck off. Everything's dinging at me. Fuck you, Owen.
Sorry.
The easiest way to save money when you're brewing beer, a very cost-effective brewing improvement, is to not lose any batches. Okay? That's probably the easiest way to save money when you're brewing, is not to spend all the money on your ingredients, spend all the money brewing it, spend all the time, spend everything, and then pour it down the drain. Because bleach is a lot cheaper than a 23-litre batch of beer. Just throwing it out there. So, well-maintained equipment is crucial.
Although
If
bleach
you
could
have-
fuck it up for you as well. So that's,
Well, yeah. Don't use bleach. Use bleach on your drains. Don't use it on your brewing gear.
Or PWP.
Or well, that's bleach. It's sodium hypochlorite.
Yeah.
So keep your equipment clean. This is going to sound like I'm trying to teach me granny how to suck eggs. But if you've got a leak on your equipment, because I've brewed with a bloke who, he sent me a message. He don't live too far away from me, and he said, I'm having some trouble with my gear. Can you pop round and just have a look? No problem. Jumps in the car, pops round. I turned up. He's got 3 taps on his kit. Not one, not 2. 3 taps. Don't know why. 3 taps on his brewing kettle, 2 of which were leaking.
I bet you when you took them apart, Chris, they were all black inside as well.
They were brown as hell. One of them was growing. There
Yeah.
was something that probably had its own language in one of the taps. And he'd put 3 taps in at different heights so that when he came to draining his beer, he could drain the clearer stuff first, then the slightly less clear stuff, and then the stuff right at the bottom so he could
Okay.
save some money.
Oh,
That's
wow.
interesting.
Yeah, I think part of it was the fact that the brewing kettle, when he'd bought it, it had a whirlpool in it,
Uh-huh.
and he didn't want the whirlpool, so he
Yeah.
just left the tap in rather than blanking it off. And he'd added an extra one to get that bit right out of the bottom because the one that was collecting from above the trub wasn't taking enough for him.
So
If you keep your
I don't understand. What's the point in doing that when it all
There is
goes
no
in the
point in
same
doing
He
that.
was he was plugging holes.
Yeah, sounds like it.
Yeah.
All right.
So essentially, if you keep your equipment clean and you make sure that it is maintained, you get rid of the beer stone, you make sure things are tight, you take your taps apart, you're less likely to lose a batch of beer, which is a very good cost-effective brewing improvement. Don't
Well,
throw
Chris,
your beer away.
There's a few things to sort of pick apart there, really, because the obvious, do your cleaning properly is you can't argue with that one, can you? But I think there's a few things there if you expand that out a little bit. So getting your kind of like cleaning regime set down so that you're investing in some proper cleaning products. We've already mentioned bleach and gone boo, no bleach. Avoid that. But I mean, I think all of us use percarbonate and Star San basically as like our kind of 2-step general cleaning, right?
Okay.
So
Yeah, Chemsan. I think I use Chemsan. I don't know
Yeah.
if you boys are using Chemsan or not, but the Chemsan I ended up getting. Is it here? Oh, no. but it's a big, massive. I got the big, huge one
Yeah.
because it's a lot cheaper just to buy it in bulk than
Yeah.
to just buy the tiny little ones and stuff like that. And
Yeah,
at
100%.
the time, they were doing like 50% off sort of deals on it. So yeah,
Yeah, it
What-
seems
what
a bit wrong to be shelling out, 20, 30 quid on a bottle of chemicals sometimes, doesn't it? But at the end of the day, if you're, brewing regularly, you're going to get through it eventually. And I think bulk buying that stuff and percarbonate, particularly, we've all talked about doing,
Bulk buying carbonate is the absolute best way to save money in the long run.
yeah,
As Andy
60,
and me
50,
will
60
say-
quid was it?
especially if you
50,
compare it to
58
like
quid?
PBW, because PBW is
Yeah.
like the fancy version of percarbonate, right?
Yeah,
And you can't really buy it. Well, maybe you can buy it in bulk if you can get it from the right suppliers. But as far as homebrew shops and stuff, they'll sell that at a much higher price than what you'll get just basic percarbonate. And it does have some other active ingredients in it as well. But essentially, the main one is percarbonate, right?
you can use double
I think
scoops.
I think PBW contains some stuff that helps to soften the water as well, so it's slightly better than bicarbonate if you're in
Yeah.
a hard water area like mine, where you end up with that kind of slightly white, sort of dry.
Is it
Yeah,
enzymes?
that
Is there
powdery
enzymes in it as
residue,
well?
right?
Yeah,
There are a
powdery
few
residue.
enzymes in it, yeah. You can just
Yeah.
chuck a teaspoon of salt in with your bicarbonate as well, that works.
Yeah,
But I mean, but since switching to, because you basically go on eBay and you can buy a 25 kilo sack, and I think it's just shy of £60.
58
deliver-
at the minute,
Yeah,
I checked
so-
earlier.
There you go, and that's going to last me, Chris. How long have you had your sack of percarbonate for?
3 years.
Yeah, and how much is still left?
About 8.5 kilos.
Yeah, and you can use it to see if the kids' white clothes are in, the
Yeah.
school tops or
Scoop.
anything like that. Scoop. Put it in with the washing and it'll bleach out it'll clean the clothes as well,
Yeah.
so.
Because that's
Just-
oxy cleaner, like stain remover, isn't it? Basically, that's
Yeah.
just the main
without
thing in it as
perfume.
well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just on the point of kind of sanitizers, is making sure that you don't use the recommended amount, because what it tends to recommend is you use a certain mil of sanitizer diluted to like 5 litres.
Yep.
And if you're
5
just
mils to 5
sanitizing,
litres, yeah.
yeah, if you're sanitizing an FE, you don't need 5 litres of it
No.
to sanitize your FE. You need like, I don't know, maybe half a pint if you can swish it round. So work out, like, build a table, get syringe out, and work out how much to actually make up, or make up a
bulk.
4 or 5 litre jug of it, in a jerry can or whatever. If you make it with RO water, it's probably more likely to kind of stay
It'll last pretty
decent
much forever.
Yeah. Then you just pour out what you need, and that way it's so easy to overuse or use more than you need to of the sanitizer, and it's not that cheap. So that's my tip.
Yeah, that's a good
No,
point.
it's a good one. It's a good one. The other is, a lot of people say you can reuse Star San. As long as it's going into a clean vessel, you can reuse your Star San. Personally, I don't like that idea. I don't like that, and it's purely from a work kind of thing. I don't like reusing chemicals at all. I don't think it's a great idea. And personally, if it was me, I would take Owen's route. Use the amount that you need and then sling it, because you don't know what's in there. Plus, the action of swilling it around will aerate it. Air contains carbon dioxide, which is essentially going to form an acid within it, or form carbonic acid, and it's just not gonna do the job as well. I mean, technically it should, but the reality is it won't. And also, you can have, from the water and from swilling it around, and just the action of it running around your kettle, you can absorb some bicarbonate, some sort of carbonates from within the air and from within the actual kettle itself. And you don't want that, because that's going to affect the effectiveness of your Star San and your sterilant at the end. So just use what you need, sling the rest.
Yeah, one thing that occurred to me as well with the mention of taps was actually investing in your hardware a little bit as far as taps go, so that you've got proper kind of ball valves that you can disassemble and get into and clean properly, because you can get cheapo ones, three-piece ball valves, because you can buy cheapo ones, but you can't actually get them apart. I've got a couple of the sort of cheapest ones that I could buy from probably Screwfix or something, and they look like they should come apart, but they're not actually kind of disassemblable.
They're cast rather than machine.
Yeah, exactly, cast ones. So that's somewhere where, again, it seems like you're paying quite a bit more initially, but actually, eventually, if you get to the point where you've got to throw the tap away because it's just so full of crud and you can't clean it out properly, then buy cheap, buy twice, basically, on that front, I think, for taps and so on. So the hardware element comes in too.
On that particular point, Tricky, another thing that I will recommend is, if you go onto eBay, we use a lot of them at work, little bottle brushes. Specifically, you want the ones that are sized for test tubes. Okay? Because you can buy them specifically, and they're about, I think they work out they're about 15 mil by the time you've pushed them into something that's like the smallest gap you can do.
Yeah.
Perfect for cleaning ball valves out.
Yeah.
You can get in there and you can give it a damn good scrub. It's well worth it.
Yeah, I found a great set of similar like cleaning brush things to that. I think it must have been in like one of those just totally random Lidl or Aldi purchases once.
Yeah.
And they just had a pack of them, and it was like I'd seen no other use for that other than
Middle aisle.
cleaning brewing equipment. Like what's that?
Middle aisle of Aldi. Utilise that for your brewing.
But they had like a really long kind of pipe cleaner type one that had really flexible wire on it that you can just like jam right the way through all the ball valves and taps and fittings and stuff quite easily. So find yourself little tools like that. Again, that can be a really useful bit of equipment to invest in and help with your kind of cleaning and whatever, to get into the nooks and crannies.
Yep, absolutely. The other thing that I will say, just going back to Owen's point about increasing about the amount that you make, you may want to consider as well, and this is a lot of people say don't do this because it's not then going to be no rinse, but there's no harm from what I've seen and from what I've worked out and calculated to doing 1.5 or even 2 times the amount of like the concentrate into the water. I make all of my Star San up now at 2 mils per litre. That's how I've always made it. And I'm the kind of anally retentive bastard who got a syringe and pulled out exactly 1 mil, weighed it, calculated the specific gravity, and then I actually weigh out my Star San and then pour it in, rather than just... Because the fucking measurements on the bottle, mate, oh my God, they're so far out. It says 20 mil. Mine was 14. I'm like, you having a laugh?
The other thing was, I think Adam Makes Beer brought up in one of our pods, was that it's, it made it the right, when you make it the right mixture, then it is, what do you call it, it is no rinse. But say you go, oh, do you know what, 20, I'm going to use 20 instead of 10 mil, to this, it no longer becomes no rinse. So there's a point where, you will get that flavour transfer or something from it.
Absolutely, but I've not found any issues with 2 mils in a litre. I've not found any issues whatsoever in it. No off flavours, no additional taste, no, like, for me, the killer would be if there was like a stain left when it had dried. There's none of that. You don't get that. Not from my experience. You may get it, I don't get it. Okay? So that's how I do mine, and that's how I make mine up. And I find that it's the belt and braces approach. It's a little bit more concentrated. Everything's in there. And, for me, it works fine. But I'm not going to say definitely do it. I'm going to say, do your own health and safety assessment and see whether or not it'll work.
I'm literally the other end of the spectrum of Chris, where I just, you got that little sort of measurement cup at the top where you just sort of squeeze it up. It's normally just like, chuck it in.
That'll do.
Looks about right.
Yeah, that's probably about right.
I used to do the syringe, to be fair, but I'm definitely in the same boat as you now, Owen, because I just can't be bothered.
Yeah.
I can't say I've ever
that looks about 5
infection.
litres.
or have ever noticed any off flavours from it. So
No,
I think
I've never
as long as
noticed
you're
any
in a
either.
certain range, I think you're all right.
Yeah.
Can we get on to the true elephant in the room at this point? Can we talk about equipment a little bit more, and can we go down the route of build your own or buy it? Can
Yeah.
we do that? Okay. If
Well,
you are a new home brewer,
Yeah.
okay, and you just want to take something to try brewing, and you want it to be cost effective, I recommend that you buy an all-in-one.
Yeah.
Buy it second hand. Buy a second hand all. There are people selling them everywhere. Buy an all in one. Don't buy something that's crap. I won't name it, but don't buy something that's crap. Okay, but buy something that is going to do the job and has the bells and whistles that you need to be able to perform the task. There is nothing more money wasteful than buying yourself something, using it 3 times, realizing it doesn't do the job, and then buying something else, and then
More
trying
expensive,
to sell on
and
what
then
you've got.
constantly try, because we've done. That's what I did. You know, exact
did
what I did. And see, looking back now, you just go, like you say, Chris. If you go and buy an all-in-one, right? Say it was a Robo or whatever, right? And but if you don't like brewing, there's a resale value to that.
Absolutely.
See your plastic bucket with a heating element and all that sort of thing in that you did at the start. Just put that in the bin, because nobody's buying that thing, right? You'll give it away. There'll be like little pots that you buy, right, from catering companies. You'll just be like, you drilled holes in it, and now you want to take the taps onto your next one. Nobody wants those pans, you know. It's just
No. And the vast majority of pans that you get when you buy one of the, because you can buy the is it Northern Brewer who do one? It's like an all-in-one. You use it to do partial mash.
yeah.
And it comes with this. That thing is made from old baked bean tins, and it's half as thick. All right, you will lose more energy from trying to boil something in that than will actually go into the liquid. There you go. There you go. You will lose more energy from that crappy piece of shitty metal than you will from actually, buying a decent pan. The issue that I have is they're so thin. Vast majority of them are made of aluminium, and they do not work as well as they should. So be careful about what you buy in the first instance, because as Andy's rightly just said, the resale value on a decent all-in-one is good, and if you don't like it, you're gonna get a good chunk of your money back.
We did. I think when we started brewing, these systems didn't exist. Really,
No, they
we didn't. You had to go down that whole make it yourself, like get an old keg. I mean, at the time when I came into it, guys were cutting holes in kegs and putting washing machine elements and stuff like that in at the time. You know, and Owen's nodding his head because he probably built one, I'm guessing.
Probably got one.
That's my HLT.
There you go.
That's what I kind of started out on, was a kegel and with some elements in it.
Yeah, exactly. So these days, yeah, get that. Get an all-in-one if you're new into it, and then that way, if you don't like it, you can get most of your money back for it anyway.
So in terms of all-in-ones, like good start-out all-in-ones is like the Brewzilla. Is it the Robo Brew? You're on mute, Chris, but I think you agreed.
The
that
Brewzilla is a
an excellent
very
one.
good one, yes.
So, I think great place to buy that would be, from our sponsor Brewkeg Tap.
Yep.
Or, look for some second-hand ones. I think there are some other okay all-in-ones out there.
Like
generally
grandfather,
like the branded
you'll be able
ones.
to. Yeah, you'll be able to pick up a G30.
Make sure it says G at the start, though, right? It doesn't want to say S.
Oh,
Make sure it says G at the start.
Yeah, don't get an S40.
Old G30's probably knocking around like Mark
300-400 quid. You can pick one of them up for.
Yeah, I think they're probably, dare I say, maybe a step up from a Robo Brew.
Yeah,
or
maybe.
a Brewzilla.
Or similar.
Because, you're getting a bit more functionality in terms of like.
But if you buy it second
Electronics.
hand, it's not going to drop. If you sell it again, then it's not going to drop much value. You'll probably get the same money back.
Pretty much.
Really?
To be
Yeah,
honest,
resale value on those always looks like it's much better when you see them going online, doesn't it? I think that's
Yeah.
brand value for what it's worth. Also, I mean, to be fair, they do have a much better aftermarket kind of like, service as far as replacements and things like that, than some of the companies. Not gonna generalize and say than all of them. I think probably the Brewzillas and stuff like that are probably
as good.
getting towards that, if not as good. But there's definitely some of the cheaper ones where it's like, if it dies, it's dead. You're not going to be able to get a replacement part for it, or controller, or anything like that. So, yeah.
Unfortunately, at this point, I have to mention the pros and cons of going down the route of getting a decent kettle and actually building your own. Because that's basically what me and Andy have done with our craft beer pie systems. But would you do that right off the bat as a brand new home brewer? The answer is probably not.
Unless you're an engineering nut, then probably not.
Or a geek with far too much time on his hands, yeah. But for me, the main reason for me building my own, it comes into the cost effectiveness of it. If your element goes, let's say, for example, you've bought a B80 or a B40, all right, or heaven forbid a B160, and you fancy, cooking a house.
150.
Yeah, 150 is it? I thought it was 160.
150, yeah.
150. If the element blows on that and it's out of warranty, what you're looking at for a new element? 500 quid? By the time you've got it, fitted it, will it fit? Can you fit it easily? That's the other thing.
It's probably not that expensive, but I think your point's valid, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's brutal, so it's probably 1,200 quid for an element. I mean, it's 1,400 quid for a washer kit. Joking.
1,400 quid for a table with a winch on it.
That's the one. But the main thing about building your own for me and Andy is, if my element blows, I undo a tri-clamp, I pull the element out, I plug a new element in, and I do up the tri-clamp.
Yeah.
And it costs me 24 quid to get a new element.
Yeah.
You can't argue with that. And also, the other thing, the reason why I love having my own, and this does come into the cost effectiveness. At the moment, we're going through what can only be described as an energy price gouge. Okay, we're currently getting absolutely battered for our energy costs. I can take out my 4.5 kilowatt element, and I could put in a 2,800. I could put in a 3,500. I could put in a 3,000.
Because Chris, time is money for you, and that's why
time is money for me.
That's why you got the 4,500 element, so you could get up to a boil quicker.
And the maths actually worked out that it was going to be cheaper for me to brew with the 4,500 compared to with a 3,000, which is what I was going to fit, because of the reduced time to get to the boil.
But with your craft beer pie setup, you can throttle that back as well, right? So it's not
absolutely
like, you have to be running that at full chat the whole time. So
mine throttles back to 800 watts during the boil.
You get the benefit of it when you want it to get up to temp really quick, and then you can set it to your optimum kind of rolling boil wattage, I guess. What sort of level do you set it to when you've hit the boil?
800 watts.
To maintain the rolling boil?
Yeah.
Really?
It can go down to 800 watts, mine, yeah.
Wow, okay.
Mine's is full chat.
I
keep it at full chat. It's just like...
At full chat, I can bounce the wort out of the kettle. No problem. But I have had it... On a decent hot day, that was 800 watts. Normally, sort of in the winter, it's around about 1,700, 1,800.
Okay.
And it still maintains a decent boil.
Yeah, you can knock it back. It's interesting.
It's good to think about it that way, because whilst yes, it's a big element, 4.5 kilowatts is a big element, but at the same time, it's not always going to be running at 4,500. So, it's like having a 6-litre engine in your car. It'll get you away from the lights quick, and you're never going to struggle to pull out of a junction. But you don't need to run it at full chat when you're doing 70 down the motorway, do you? It's basically a tick over at that point. So
you just swap the element, like different batch sizes. Like I've got a 5.5 kilowatt when I want to do the full 2 or 3 triple batch sort of thing, or I can put I've got a 3,500 watt element to do a 23 litre, and I like it because it's longer. It's not like a short element, it's quite a long element as well. So because it's such a wide pot that I've got, the 80 litre one, it then you can do 23 litre batches with it. It's really good.
But to be cost effective, it doesn't cost me as much to replace an element or anything in my brewing system if it goes pop.
You
So
can fix it.
it's pros
For a
and
kicker.
cons. It's pros and cons. That's all we're saying. It's something to think about if you're looking for something that's cost effective moving forward.
Yeah.
Definitely. Should we get into ingredients and talk about that a bit? Unless anyone's got anything else to add for our equipment. I'll assume not. Good.
No.
So we've got there's different ways to approach this as far as ingredients go. We can talk about bulk purchasing again in this one in terms of just generally pushing costs down. Now, does that necessarily improve your brewing as such by just buying in bulk? Not necessarily. It's definitely going to get you the ingredients cheaper, but perhaps it might allow you to spend a little bit more and get this slightly more premium ingredients sort of thing. So if we were looking at, buying, let's say grain, for example, by the kilo, and you're just buying it in small amounts per brew or whatever, you're probably going to be paying a little bit of a premium price on that versus if you wanted to get the a full sack of 25 kilos, which obviously for base malts and stuff makes a little bit more sense. Maybe not so much for your random caramel malt you need for one particular recipe or whatever, but that might be the difference between you getting something like a nice floor malted premium malt versus a more cheaper kind of
lager malt,
basic pale malt or lager malt or whatever it is.
So
that's something you can think about. Maybe go on, Chris.
It's just popped into my head. It's something that I should have thought about while we were doing the notes. If you buy 25 kilos of a malt, does that not give you a bigger opportunity to actually hone in on the efficiency of that malt and work out how it works for you, thus saving you money over the course of the batch? Small amounts, but it's still going to work.
I don't know. I don't just have Bohemian Pilsner malt. I've got Crafty Maltsters and I've got some Golden Promise as well. So, yeah, there's a few sacks under the stairs.
Yeah, but it gives you the opportunity to hone in on those particular malts from that particular batch and say, oh, this is giving me plus 5% on my efficiency. I can change my recipe and use 5% less malt. That was my only thinking. Yes, it's not very cost effective, but the reality is if you're doing it over the course of 10, 12 bags, that may work out to be 2 or 3 batches that you're going to end up getting that you probably wouldn't have got if you were under or over efficiency.
If you guys had a look at the recent cost of malt, like a bag,
don't get me started, mate.
It's like 40 quid for just anything.
That's for basic stuff.
Anything,
as well,
yeah,
it?
Just basic, like £40.
Anything from Germany, forget about it.
Yeah,
like
50, 60.
Add another 50% onto that price.
Yeah, I mean, what was the cheapest bag of malt you could probably buy? It's probably just crisp pale malt or...
Yeah, well, probably crisp pale.
Well, when I first started buying sort of 25 kilo sacks, I think, and it was actually pretty decent malt considering that it was literally the cheapest stuff, but the home brew company, they had their like Minch malt, which was like an Irish maltsters, and it was it wasn't the most like exciting in terms of flavour, but at one point that was definitely under 20 quid for a 25 kilo bag. Under 20
way
quid.
Under. 16,
like
16,
17 quid, I think, when I first started buying it. And then if they had it on offer, you could sometimes get it for like...
Is that stuff up 40 now?
I think they've jacked it right up to, near enough 40 quid. But
well, everybody sees the price of Bohemian Flow Malted and they're like, we want that money.
Yeah. Well, see, the only thing, Crafty Maltsters still have it if you can pick it up at £27 a sack for pops, right? But then I think if you want delivery, it goes up to about, add another £12 or so into that, and then that's you basically in the same range.
They don't do like a free delivery option or whatever.
No, that always stings you, doesn't it?
Yeah. So
I mean,
for me,
having talked to the to maltsters on here, I think you get a bit of an insight into how energy intensive that process is.
And that's why it's went up skyrocketed.
And given everything else that's been going on that we're all affected by, you can kind of understand it to an extent, but it's still a rough one, isn't it?
Yeah, so I don't know if you could speak to your local brewery to see if you could get, still that sort of £27 a sack type price maybe through your local brewery, but
I'll tell you right now, if you bulk buy from a maltster, I've got, well, I should have, if Simon Seaton hadn't thrown it all over my back step, I should have a sack of Golden Promise, and that sack was £27.
Yeah, there you go.
And they're down the road. A guy did I think it was a half ton or a ton that he bought, and then just piecemealed it off to everyone. It's a lot cheaper if you can buy directly from the maltster. But
Yeah.
I don't live anywhere near Vehement, so it's a bit of an issue for me.
Yeah, you have to move, mate. You have to
I'm considering it. That might be cost effective in the long run.
uproot and move to Germany.
Yeah. Bedford
Yeah,
is twinned
it's
with Bamberg,
crazy.
but they haven't built that pipeline to crank the malt straight into Bedford yet, which is really unfortunate.
That'd be a hell of a blower pipe, that would, wouldn't it?
I mean,
You'll need that East West Rail.
I'd be
Yeah.
interested to know if there's any of our kind of European listeners in the chat, just how much kind of malt, what sort of prices they're paying for a 25 kilo sack of malt, whether they've seen huge price increases in, Germany and the Netherlands and Sweden and
I remember something being
Denmark.
said about the weather being an effect because it's a smaller harvest. I remember something about that.
Was that last year?
Last year, yeah. This year as
This
well.
year's not.
No, this year as well. I heard it was a reduced harvest, but I might be.
Didn't we have? We had a very wet winter, didn't we? We had a very, very hot summer last year, followed by a really wet winter. I think that can kind of, harvests kind of peak and trough, don't they?
Yeah.
So I guess demand and supply economics come into play.
Can I just say this? 'Cause I've been waiting for a while. J Falk, you bellend. Can you tell us what that is in a proper currency, please, that everyone understands? I've no idea.
I'm away to
kroner
Google
are
it.
for the pound.
I'm googling it. Don't worry, I'm on it.
I'm going to
Uh,
guess about 25 quid.
€45 for Vehement Pilsner from
22.
Steve Gadfrius in Germany.
Oh, that's not
£22,
bad.
36 pence.
£22.36.
Yep,
I'm moving to Denmark.
there you go. So that's just a bit cheaper than what we can get as a cheapest if you know where to go.
Yeah,
It's
that's
subsidised by the government because you have to pay 60% income tax.
yeah, big time. But that's kind of interesting to know that because we're importing a lot and it's got to come over on a bus, on a truck, and then it's got to be unloaded, it's got to be stored, and there's import duties and blah blah blah, because we fucking left Europe. Now we're paying an absolute premium for everything, and we're getting gouged to fuck on energy prices. So
Yeah, that was a great idea.
yeah,
Oh, it was
cracker.
298 actually.
There you go.
22, 21.
Oh, I suspect there's probably some Tory cronies taking some sort of backhander off the.
Let's not do politics on the podcast, Owen.
Yeah, let's move away
Let's
from
not
this.
do that.
Those cronies seem to be.
God, we'll be
taking
talking about
cuts.
religion next.
Yeah.
It's still
Cuts
cheaper to
everywhere.
buy it by the sack. So base malt's the great one where you just get sacks and you find a malt that you like. So if it's Golden Promise or if it's this went out of my head. What's the Marisota or whatever sort of base? If you want just basic Euro pills or something, you find one that you like.
I love Euro pills.
I mean,
You're a big fan.
back in the day. Yeah, I agree. Anyway, buying ingredients in
Little
bulk,
Box.
yes. So, as Tricky said right at the very start, sort of 15 minutes ago when we started covering this bit, one thing that Tricky's talked about, we had the malt miller on and they talked about, is the new hop products. Can they be a cost-effective brewing improvement? And I think the reality is, based on the fact that you're gonna get how many liters extra from your hops not drinking everything.
I just want a keg though. That's the thing. See if I get an extra 3 litres. It's 3 litres that's just going to go. If it doesn't fill the keg, I'm not like you guys where I'll fill some extra bottles or something off the fermenter or an extra mini keg or something. I'm just
get
like,
it in a mini keg.
no, that's
Why
just
not?
that's getting flushed.
What?
That's
No.
a
Yeah.
waste.
Well, I don't know.
I
It's maybe maybe because I can't see in that big stupid stainless steel tank how much
Maybe.
I've actually got
Yeah.
left.
That's
I'm just
probably
like,
true, to be
hey,
fair.
I filled a keg. That's good.
To be fair, it's
Maybe.
not just about that extra, volume that you're getting out of it as well. I think there is
Flavour.
there's definitely a flavour aspect, but also and I think the malt millers were pushing this quite hard, the consistency and kind of repeatability with some of those ingredients. But also from our perspective, I mean, for me, in my experience, like the biggest thing that I've noticed was like I didn't seem to have any issues at all with the beer being green, having like hop burn, basically potentially going too far with the
Vegetable.
that vegetal, green vegetal flavor with it. And I've had beers where it's not quite been to the point of getting drain poured, but certainly where it's not, as far as an improvement to the actual quality of the beer, I've found that those products, counterintuitively, yes, you're putting in a bit significantly higher kind of pricing there initially, but I think that they do return a good, quality improvement in some cases. Not necessarily all the time. You might have a
So, Tricky,
method
here's a
with
question
normal
for
hops that
you.
can be great. Yeah, go on.
How much of your own hard-earned cash have you used to buy these products?
Well, I mean, most of the stuff I've been buying recently has been with vouchers from competition wins, so I still haven't spent any of my own money on them.
Here we go.
Seller.
Humble brag.
But
Fucking hell.
I have bought some since, basically getting it as freebies for the initial video that I did on that, and yeah. So and particularly, I mean, I think like the last video that I used some in, like for Galaxy, if you want to put Galaxy in a beer, I would 100% recommend using some of the Spectrum Galaxy versus hot pellets. For the reasons that we've discussed at length previously, that I don't want to go over all
That beer
again
with
here.
a G.
And I think it's just for me, it's just like I kind of feel like I'm a lot more confident in the outcome with those beers, like using those ingredients in a really heavily hop driven kind of like Nipah or something like that. I wouldn't be quite as concerned about going to your sort of 10 grams per litre or beyond equivalent hopping rate, without introducing unwanted flavours that are going to potentially ruin the beer for me. So that's my take on it anyway, but your mileage may vary.
Oh my god, I've just spotted the worst bit of grammar ever in the history of the world, perpetrated by the grey-bearded monkey in the top right. The title of the post on Facebook to say that we're going live: Improvement your brewing without breaking the bank. Seriously, Tricky? You've gone with improvement your brewing.
I typed that out in a rush.
God. Gee. Anyway, moving on. I'll bash
It's
him about
okay, I'll
that one
fix it
later.
later.
So,
Fucking
I've just
hell,
done a
Trick.
quick bit of search on the Malt Miller website. The cheapest 25 kilo sack of actual grain base
100
malt
quid.
it's 31 quid, which is
Oh,
crisp,
wow.
high diastatic power malt, which I'm not sure I've ever used, and I'm not sure you'd want to make a beer
Is that not for
entirely
making
using
whiskey?
that. I think that might be like you add it in addition
wheat?
to, in order to increase the diastatic power of a particular grist in case it's kind of short.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're pretty much looking at just over 40 quid. Simpson's extra pale malt, £40.82.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely gone up a bit.
But then, what's it? Say if you were to buy it, what's the cost difference? If you were buying like 3 kilos at a time, or 4 kilos or something, compared to just getting the 25, is there quite a big difference?
It's a bloody good question. Let's have a look. I'll compare. What was it? Simpson's
Yeah.
pale.
While you're doing that, well,
Simpson's extra pale £2.56 per kilo. So that would be
256 times 25.
25, 50, 75 quid if you bought
I
it
mean-
per kilo.
£2 what? 56.
Well, 10
Times
kilos. 10 kilos would be 25 quid. 20 kilos would be 50 quid. Half of that. Alright, 60.
4.
Yeah. 64
So
quid.
so what? What's it? A straight bag's 40 quid, and if you want to buy it like
Yeah.
that, you're paying an extra £24 or something with 20 odd.
Correct. Yeah, but then you've got to factor in like
It's a 50% markup.
the overheads to them splitting it,
It's all the
milling
packaging.
it, packaging it, and all of that stuff.
That's the
So-
cost.
So that proves the point around kind of buying base malt in bulk. Also, I just found out that if you want a sack of Vireman's spelt malt, have a guess how much a 25 kilo sack of that is.
90
60.
quid.
Higher.
Higher than 90.
120 quid.
£111.92.
And this is why no fucker brews with spelt.
Apart from Owen.
I do, but only very small amounts.
Yeah.
Obviously, spelt's extremely expensive to grow. There you go. Anyway, let's not rattle on about the cost of base malt for all night.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's pull it back to the ingredients. So we got we kind of done the hops and the general bulk buying and
Let's
so
do
on.
yeast.
Yeast, yeast management and repitching and reusing. There's lots of different ways to do that, and I think this is another one where you can kind of have like maybe looking at say premium yeast that are available. Perhaps liquid yeast is a good example of this, where you might have to, if you want to get a certain liquid yeast strain that's not available dry or whatever, you might have to chuck in a little bit more money initially to get hold of that. Again, the prices on yeast seem to be creeping up quite significantly in some cases as well for the liquid versions, but you can make that investment initially and then potentially go down the route of reusing or harvesting or building a yeast bank and save yourself money, but also give yourself options to be using different strains which are more suited to particular beers, or just strains that you wouldn't have been able to access otherwise, and potentially be brewing a better quality product at the end as well. So I've always been a big sort of fan of the kind of yeast, slanting and harvesting
Wrangling.
and repitching. Wrangling, that's the
Do
the
you
word
boys,
that I like to use.
do you actually use that, or do you end up just going buying yeast?
I use it quite a lot these days.
I do use it quite a lot, yeah. I mean, a lot of the time,
Yes.
like if I know that I've going to be using that same yeast again, I will also just scoop a jar of it out and save it up, and then maybe do a starter if I know it's going to be a short, time between me maybe using that brew again. But I'll basically slant it anyway for like longer term if I want to come back to it at a later date, and then I'll usually save some fresh yeast as well and just repitch that or build a starter off of that. That's what I tend to be doing most of the
You
time.
can do the rinse trick as well, Tricky. So when you've pitched from your pouch, rinse it, create a starter, decant, jar it, and then you can use it again.
Or overbuild it and just save a little bit
Big
at the end,
time,
do the same thing. So many ways to do it. It's it seems I always feel guilty if I do just buy a fresh pouch of yeast and then just use it once. I feel like I've just wasted money, basically.
Smallest Brett has just come on and said he now has everything to start slanting.
That's
And
good.
also, once he's created a slant, he's so small he can sleep on it, which is a
Okay.
bonus.
Can I raise up my point about I do the opposite. I can't be bothered, right? Honestly, I did the whole jars, Uncle Ben jars and all that of capturing yeast and stuff, right? I've went the way where I just get a 500-gram brick, right? And then I just split it. I just vac pack it myself with the, how we've got the vacuum sealer for the hops. I just vac pack it into little pouches that I can then pitch for 10-gallon batches or whatever. And then it's so much cheaper than buying loads and loads of little kind of sachets or whatever. And so you tend to have, you'll have in stock, you want to get, I like USO5, it's a great sort of ale yeast. USO5, and then I've got that, would you call it saturated? And I think I've got Sanders as well. And then, yeah, it's great. Dead cheap.
It is
So
a good
kind
way
of
of doing it.
Back to bulk buying, because you can obviously, as Andy pointed out, do that with yeast as well, with dry yeast at least. Something I did the other day, which I haven't done for a while, was dehydrate some yeast. So
All right.
I built up a, which as far as I know, you can only really do with Kvike.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I did it with. I built up a yeast starter of Ebergarden, and then I stuck it in a sanitized parchment paper baking tray, and then put it in the air fryer on dehydrate.
Oh, and the Ninja.
I
Yeah.
have some of those toenails, and I have to say, Owen, I did a starter,
Yeah.
and oh my god, 4 flakes. 4 flakes.
Just took
And
off.
I now have about 3 gajillion cells.
But see with that process,
It face fucked my wort, and
But-
it's now, there's a billion
There's-
cells.
there's a higher chance of infection with that method.
There is.
Possibly.
But
Yeah.
who doesn't love a
that's-
wild brew?
That's true.
Hmm.
I tried to keep it as sanitized as possible, but kind
Yeah.
of dehydrating in the air fryer possibly is, But equally, it's chances are like Chris has done. He's put it in a starter. If you taste the starter, I
You'll
think
see
you'll
it.
probably get a vibe as to whether it's dodgy or not. But honestly, I dried out a whole starter's worth, and I've put the toenails in the freezer, and I've probably got enough yeast there to do 20, if not more, brews.
Yeah.
And if you just
And
create a small
you don't-
starter,
You don't have to do a starter. You can just lob a teaspoon of
half a
toenails
teaspoon
in,
works.
and
Half
it
a
will
teaspoon. 3 flakes for a
Kvike.
10-gallon batch.
and it'll be
No,
off.
it's brutal. It's amazing. One of the things that I do want to bring up about yeast is I've done the calculation because I'm that level of wanker.
Love a bit of
Five
science.
5 batches is all you have to make from slanted yeast, right? In order to recoup the costs of the equipment to make 80 slants and buy the stir plate and a bag of spray malt.
Yeah,
That's
I
all
need
you need to do, and you're in
I bought all the
profit.
kit. I've got the Agar solution. I've not bothered my arse doing that.
You're in profit after 5 batches.
Come on, Andy. Get
I know.
your shit together.
I know. I was just like, do you know what? I'm like,
It's,
nah.
it's
Just
definitely not
Rex.
a cost-effective improvement if you never use it. Like that's a tip for today.
yeah.
And
I don't
also-
think anything's cost effective in my bloody brewery.
If you're a vapor and you DIY, having that stir plate to be able to stir your e-liquid once you finish making up the thing,
There you
when
go.
drop it, that also saves you money as well. The idea of yeast just getting more and more expensive, I understand costs have increased and all that sort of stuff. Buy a stir plate, buy a flask, buy yourself a few bits and bobs. Before you know it, you've spent 45, 50 quid if you get it from the right place. Buy one yeast, one single liquid yeast, and brew 5 batches with that liquid yeast. And there's so many people who I speak to who are like, I use London Ale 3 for everything. Because all they brew is pale ales and like bitters. And
It's a bloody good yeast.
it is a bloody good yeast. I'm not disputing that. But what I am saying is 5 batches and you've covered your costs. Everything that you get out of that particular yeast pack after that is pure profit. That is money saved. It's in your pocket. You can use it to buy Viagra or whatever you want. All right? That's what it is. Beautiful. Money saved.
I would agree. I'd be lost without my stir plate and my Earl and Meyer flask.
It's
I do use it.
it's
When you want to
essential.
use, yeah. If you want to do lagers with wet yeast, you must. It's a necessity to have that kit, because otherwise your beer, you know, the yeast
You'd be
might be
buying 3
tired.
packs. Yeah.
Oh,
You'd
yeah,
be
it
buying
could be
3
tired or
packs of
whatever.
wet yeast just to be able to do a lager, wouldn't you?
Yeah, it's like that one. You just put some blooming DME.
It's a wonderful way, and I firmly believe, as far as money saving goes, considering if you're going to buy a wet yeast and use it in a beer and just pitch that wet yeast straight in, 12 quid a pop for some of the more premium top end yeast plus delivery, right? That's more than your malt cost most of the time. It's probably equal to your hop cost, okay? So that is easily half of the cost of your brew. If you're brewing a lager, it's probably more. It's probably 50, maybe 60%, 65% of the cost of your brew. Why would you not save that? Why would you not do that? I mean, Andy, you've got the kit. You're letting me down. You're Scottish. You played fucking bagpipes at the start of this episode, and you're not even making a starter.
No, I do make starters, right? But not for. I'm not Well, I've done the whole harvesting thing, and I just can't be bothered. Genuinely, it's like I've get put onto these bricks, and the bricks are brilliant because it's so cheap. Right, the bricks are so cheap that if you're happy with general yeasts, then you're sorted. Because Crossmaloof Hells is a lager yeast that I'm really liking, right? And that is a super cheap yeast to buy. That's another thing. Crossmaloof, any of their dried yeasts is a great. You can bulk buy like 10 packets and get a discount on it, and you can mix and match all that sort of thing.
Works out as £2.10 or £2.20 per pack of yeast, doesn't it?
Yeah,
that's pretty good, isn't it? In comparison to 12 quid for and as Andy said, if you just they've got a big enough range to be able to brew, I would argue, probably any beer style, but you're not going to be able to get a specific Kolsch yeast, or you're not going to be able to get a specific Belgian blend or whatever that so I would say most of the time dry yeast is a great cost saver.
You couldn't get London L3 until probably recently in dry.
That's
true. The dries are coming in now. There's more and more different strains. Before it would be SO4, USO5, M44 or whatever else, Nottingham and all that. So that was it, sort of.
Yeah, 3470.
Yeah. Very
SO4.
limited.
Yeah, when I started out brewing, there was not many dried yeasts around.
There you go. Hoddy, on the poddy, has a brewery, and he buys his SO4 from CML.
Exactly.
There you go.
Cheap. And it's hassle free. You don't need to worry about if you're harvesting. You don't need to worry about infection or anything like that, because for a brewery, it's a lot of money in each batch. So if you can just pitch clean dry, then winner. Otherwise, they're gonna have to go like breweries. Breweries will do acid washes, and they'll kill all the bacteria to make sure that the yeast is clean. But it's such a process. It's massive. Plus, they need to keep that yeast alive as well and healthy. So they'll constantly be pitching that yeast from batch to batch. And it's not like us where you put it in your Uncle Ben's jar in the fridge and then it's like, hopefully it's okay for the next one.
I think it's extremely, extremely rare for breweries below a certain, size or level to be using fresh yeast in that way for those reasons. I mean, I've heard that from many brewers at that sort of scale where they've said it's just not worth the risk, basically, for doing it at that level.
Talking to Lance last week before, whenever it was, week before last, he was saying that brewery that they used in the paper, they done 300 generations of one yeast. 300 generations. So clearly there's a lot of repitching going off, and that has to be a money saving thing. It has to be.
Well, I think that's Hoddy was just talking about sort of how much yeast would cost if you're buying it fresh for the amount that they're brewing commercially, and it must be a huge cost, huge cost factor to making beer. So if you can repitch, it just makes so much. That was a good gag.
Yeah,
No, it's excellent.
I'm
You need to
quite
tell
glad
it. So there.
Brett's-
Brett says Uncle Ben's harvested yeast is great for a rice lager. Apparently,
That's a good one.
Jokes
It's a good
and-
one. I like that. I like
I
that.
do like that.
What's impressed me the most in this whole conversation is the fact that Andy still eats Uncle Ben's. Or buys Uncle Ben's jars. It's
The
like
man's got a Kamado.
sweet and
He's
sour.
got, he's got a Weber. He's got an Uni pizza oven, but he still buys fucking rice in an Uncle Ben's packet and uses Uncle Ben's sauces. Yeah. One of
Classic.
the only points that's left on our notes, I'm going to jump on because I can, because I actually want a commercial beer because this mango wheat is about to finish and that is no bueno. Chat GPT says utilize local produce because it's spelt with a Z, so I know Chat GPT wrote it.
Yeah.
Utilize local produce and ingredients like fruits and herbs to add unique flavors without overspending. Now, I was going to laugh about this point until I remembered talking to Santa, and Santa said that he uses spruce tips in some of his beer, which I presume he just walks out of his front door and sees a gajillion spruce trees and picks off the sweetest looking tips in order to make his beer. Now, I actually know or have spoken to, I don't know him personally, but I know of a bloke who uses stinging nettles instead of hops in his beer because he likes to make traditional sort of, 1200 BC beers. So he uses stinging nettles instead of hops. And there's another lad who uses dock leaves as well as I want to say pine nuts, but he wouldn't be using the nuts, probably pine cones. And he uses them in his beer as well.
Yeah.
Which, to be fair, juniper twigs, that's the one. Sorry, Thomas, I got it wrong. Sorry, Santa. He uses juniper twigs. So
I was like, who's Santa?
it's Thomas.
The Santa.
Thomas.
He literally is
Saint Nick.
Santa. Or Saint Tom. But yeah, that is a beautiful use of things like that for me. Brett Simmons has done it with nettles as well. Apparently, it adds a really unique flavour, which, to be fair, based on the current economy, we may all end up doing.
Have you never tried nettle tea? Well, I'm sure I've tried nettle beer as well.
I've had nettle tea. I've never had nettle beer.
And it's not an unpleasant flavour.
19 litres of nettle beer. Ooh, yum.
Don't knock it till you've tried it. It may be a
No,
real
you're all right.
groundbreaker for you, Andy.
I'm going to make a nettle New England IPA.
I think I'll stick to Citra, Mosaic and Simcoe.
Yeah,
25
I'm with you,
grams per
Andy.
litre.
This
There you
sounds
go.
all very use British hops.
No, I'm pulling this one up because we're talking about cost-effective improvements. Brett says it's not a
But
bad beer.
the key word there was improvements, not making it worse.
Well, they clearly
listen.
did it in olden times.
Yeah,
Oh,
Why not
because
try it?
they didn't have
Desperate
hops.
times- Desperate times equals desperate measures.
I mean,
Yes.
there's Heather Ale up here, and it's honking.
Yeah, Heather beer's fucking wrong. But Heather's wrong, to be fair. You could literally burn
it
it
Groot?
all for me. I hate Heather.
Was it Groot or something like that they used to put in? Like,
That's
Brew
what it's called, Groot, yeah.
Yeah, beer
what's
to
she
Groot.
do
done
without
to you,
hops.
Chris?
Say what?
What's she done to you?
Heather?
Yeah.
Well, all I can say is it involved a trip to a clinic.
Yeah.
At this point, Tricky, is there something we need to be doing right now?
I think we should be taking it to the commercial break.
Fucking smooth, that. That was smooth.
Right,
Right.
let's go get this. Try this. Four Priest.
I've already got mine in the glass because I was
Let's
getting
go
impatient.
in
So
random beer, random beer, random beer, random beer. That beer. Okay, that'll work.
I'll jump in while you fellas are charging your glasses. I've got a Baron beer, which I picked up in the local bottle shop yesterday. Struggling to actually read the name of this. Sunny Spells, it says on the front. It's a 6% IPA. And as Jack likes to do, we've got the nerdy bits on the back and a full recipe breakdown. It's even got the water profile on there, which is pretty cool. If you're that way inclined. So he's used the new White Labs dried version, carrying on with the yeast theme, dried version of the London Fog yeast. And hops are HBC 586, which is the sort of very citrusy breakfast juice kind of hop, I think, that's quite a few beers got in. HBC 438, which I'm not familiar with. And Chinook, and then we've got pale malt, chip malt, oat malt, flaked oats, and wheat malt. Yeah, and then he just says a little bit about the London Fog, blah blah blah, and matched it with some citrus-forward hops. So, as you would expect from that recipe description, it's an absolute merc bomb. Definitely more into the kind of New England, kind of hazy IPA style. Aroma is really kind of sweet, citrus, very little bit of a kind of like lemon and lime kind of, not quite, not sharp lemon and lime, but almost like a lemon and lime kind of sweeties sort of thing, which is interesting. A little bit sherbety maybe. I think, yeah, sherbet's the vibe I'm going for there. Smells good. Yeah, pure juice bomb. Definitely leaning on the citrus. I think, again, that HBC 586 really seems to go for full-on kind of mixed citrus fruit juice kind of flavours in the beers that I've tried it in. And a little bit of bitterness there as well. I think the Chinook is giving it a little bit of a sort of piney bitter note on the back end, which I don't mind in a hazy beer. Just sort of gives it a little bit more of a little bit more drinkability, I think. So, yeah, another pretty decent beer from Baron there, which they all tend to be fair, from the ones I've tried. So, yeah, not that they'll be listening, but cheers, Jack. Nice beer, thank you. Anyone else ready to go?
I'm good. But Chris, I think you wanting to go? No, you're alright. Okay, I'll go. So, obviously, we were just talking. Morgue Straight. Stewie sent me this. Thanks, Stewie. Absolute legend. Okay. It's very gentle. It's not like, I don't know if your
I've got to say, look
tricky.
at the colour difference on that to the one I had. That was
No, it's pretty light.
or is it just your background lighting that's
It's the
making it look quite
background,
amber?
yeah, because it's that red light,
okay.
and then
Yeah, because
But
I was just looking at that and thinking,
no,
it looks like
this
more
is
like
like
a bitter sort of colour.
no, this is super pale. I'll get a light, right? Because that'll be. But yeah, look, it's like really, really pale.
Yeah, that's much more similar to what I had.
Yeah,
there, to be fair.
I was actually surprised at how pale it was. It's like citrus notes, like a kind of lemony citrus sort of thing on the nose, but it's very gentle. You know, it's like if you were to say golden ale, I'd say this is, yeah, it's pretty on point for a golden ale. Again, I get like kind of citrus lemon, but not like, but it's got a lot of nice bit of sweetness to it, like a kind of, like almost like it's like Golden Promise, but it's not. What's in it? It's Maris, right? Okay. So it does have that kind of malt character, sort of sweet bread in it notes sort of thing, and just that citrus nice blend. It's not like you're saying yours is quite bitter. Tricky, was it? This one's like quite low. It's almost that sort of 0.6 booger type thing, I would say. It's
Yeah,
more
I
in
haven't
the
drunk
lower
them
end.
next to each other yet, but from what I remember, it's my one's definitely got a little bit more of a lingering bitterness on there, which is not something that I dislike, but yeah, just a bit different to the original one.
Yeah,
I think.
the original. The original's very soft.
The original
kinda.
is I mean, obviously we've both had the bottled version, but I can imagine on cask it must just be like absolutely drillable.
Yeah,
because the one I've got is still very, very drinkable, but it does have a more noticeable bitterness to it. But yeah,
I mean, this is not got that. It's not got that much carbonation. It's quite a low carbonation, But I can imagine on cask it would just be that sort of creaminess, and that sort of that'd be insane on cask, definite. So
What's the ABV
nice.
on it, Andy? What?
4.3.
Okay. Pretty sessionable then.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Very nice. Yeah, great beer, and I can see why people like it.
Nice.
Very good,
What
very
am I
nice.
drinking?
Owen,
Yeah.
before you jump in, can we just take a mid-commercial break? Because I want to point out that Brett Simmons has just started a new trend that everybody needs to be following. Okay? He's now doing his own commercial whilst we're doing a commercial. Okay,
What a
and
legend.
he's on a bit of a vocation trip at the minute. I can't fault him. That 30% off sale, I drilled the fuck out of that. So he's picked up in his local Tesco's Vocations Oraki, the Dipper at 8% with Motueka, Rakau and Waiti hops. Now, here's a little bit of information that you fuckers probably won't know. Aoraki is the Maori name for Mount Cook, which is the highest peak in New Zealand.
There you go.
And I happen to have 2 cans of that in my fridge. And I haven't drunk any of them yet because I was a bit of a donut and I hadn't even looked at the hops. But if you guys who are listening to us live, who are joining us live, or if you're a listener and you want to jump in and have a good laugh with us, get yourself a beer to do a commercial break. And when we do the commercial break, get yourself on YouTube, write us a little bit of a synopsis like Brett Simmons has done.
Yeah.
Okay, jump on and tell us what you're drinking. Because this is one of those things. I'm now going to drink Oraki. I'm not going to drink it tonight because I've got to be up and do stuff early in the morning. But I'm going to drink that and I want to see what it's like because that sounds amazing. Motueka, Rakau and Waiti. Yes, please. Thank you. I'll take all of those. 5 kilos of each. Thank you very much. That sounds phenomenal. Plus, what a cool name. Oraki.
Did you not get any in your massive order from Vocation?
Yeah, there's 2
Chris?
cans.
He did. You get 2 cans.
I've got 2 cans in the fridge.
I think I've got 2 cans of that in my fridge as well, which I'd bought in
Does sound good to be fair.
Tesco or wherever.
Yeah, that's
Can't
really
You've
go
not
wrong with
tried one
Motueka
yet,
and
Chris, then?
Rakau.
You're not
No,
tried it yet?
I drink dippers.
Have you tried it, Chucky?
So infrequent.
No, that's what
Yeah.
I was asking. Just yeah.
Owen, do you fancy grabbing one and having it towards the end of the show so we can get a live review from you?
No.
Okay.
By the way,
I
again,
say that. It's only that I've only just opened a 7% IPA.
Yeah.
And I do have to get up with the kids in the morning and I'll have to
Yeah,
work.
yeah, yeah.
So,
Okay,
there is
we've
that.
got a review from Brett Simmons. It's bloody lovely. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. That's what we want, Brett. That's what we need. We need that kind of input, okay? So if you guys want to do a commercial with us, join us on YouTube whilst we're live. Let us know what you're drinking. Let us know how it tastes. Give us a review of what you're drinking, and I'll make sure it goes up in a message on YouTube, just like Brett Simmons just has.
Another quick mention: the recipe for Murgy Straight, which Andy has freely shared. It's his own version of the recipe is in the chat. So
Nice.
if
nice.
anyone wants to see the recipe for that beer that Andy's just drinking,
might be
go and check it out there.
pinching that. I need something for the hand pull.
We've
Yeah.
also got Owen in the chat saying that he's brewed it and it was pucker. So yeah, another recommendation there for that recipe.
Always nice to meet another Owen. Hello.
There's not enough Owens in the world.
No, there's probably not. There's probably not. So I'm going to be a bit cheeky and I'm going to do one very quick review of a beer from one of our podcast followers, Yeast.
Patreon. He's a Patreon.
Yes, he's a Patreon and a follower. I was very kindly sent a couple of bottles of his beer via Brett, and I'm drinking Yeast's Black IPA Nighthawk, which is from 2022. So it's obviously been it was bottled 8th of October 2022. No, I'm assuming that was brewed on the 8th of October, bottled 5th of November. So this is a black IPA with Centennial Cascade and Simcoe, fermented with USO 5 at 6.7%. And it's a banger. It's like classic sea hop.
Grapefruit.
But really accentuated by that little bit of dark malt. I think that's what makes a black IPA really great for me.
Yeah.
The combination of those two things is just iconic, really. So I want to say thank you to Yeast and Brett for passing that on. But to my commercial beer, I'm drinking a South versus North. So allow
Collab.
that to settle in for a moment. It's a Tricky and Owen versus Andy and Chris fight off. This is a
You've
Brew
lost
by
your pair
Numbers
of
beer.
pansies.
Yeah, I know. Brew by Numbers, which is a collab with Yonder and Staggeringly Good. If you have not heard of either of those, Yonder is based in Somerset. Staggeringly Good is based in Portsmouth, just down the coast from me. And it is a double dry hopped IPA at 7%. Doesn't state what the hops are. It just says American hops, offering aromas of citrus, mango, and pine. It's a little bit hazy. It was very carbonated, either that or I had quite a mucky glass, or a combination of both. And it's just a really, actually surprisingly easy drinking IPA at 7%. And it's not got tons of aroma. It's not like mega punchy, which we might expect from like a big double IPA or something. But yeah, super smooth. It's got a very pleasant aroma. Citrus, pine. It's decent. It's not amazing, but
They're drinkable.
yeah, it's got like a lovely silky mouthfeel. There's quite a lot of oats, I'd imagine, in it. Quite a big sort of rounded flavour to it. You probably get more of the mango on the flavour, followed up with a bit of a kind of grapefruity sort of. It's not even a word. I'm just making sounds now.
But we like
during
that.
my
That's a
beer
good
reviews.
sound.
Yeah, that's kind of how my brain interpreted that grapefruit vibe.
What
It's
shape
just
are the hops?
Ah.
Don't know. I think it's mostly ovals. Yeah.
So it's
Sounds-
there and then it goes.
It sounds pretty good. The one thing that I mean, I'm
Quencher.
sorry, I'm jumping in, Owen. I just want to say something here. Recently, I've gone back to drinking beers which are Citra Cascade, just in various amounts and various ratios. I don't know why, but I'm really enjoying the Citra Cascade again.
I had a really good beer the other night, which was Citra, Cascade, and something else. And it was a banger. Like that
Yeah.
Cascade just... Oh, it was the Siren beer. It was a California IPA, which is sort of a style that kind of hasn't really taken much form or taken off.
It's basically just a sort of softer Westie, isn't it? The California
Yeah.
IPA, I think. Slightly
That's
more
it.
mellow bitterness. Westie.
Not quite as in your face, but it
Yeah.
definitely had like a really nice juicy aroma, but it also had a really nice piney aroma, and it just carried a little bit of bitterness through it. It was a banger, really good. But yeah, I'm enjoying this. This is very drinkable, and I love just how like rounded the flavour is on it in terms of the hop presence. Probably just proving the point that you don't need to chuck 25 grams per litre in to have a nice hop flavour to a beer.
But it helps.
Yeah, depends what you're going for.
It does look like a nice beer as well. I know the lighting in your office is pretty decent. It does look like a nice beer, mate. Looks like a good one, I have to say. I always find
partridge there. Sorry.
you know, the first thing that I always notice when I'm looking at a beer is the colour of it. The colour always seems to set everything off for me. And they say you drink with your eyes and you drink with your nose and you eat, you know. It's just one of those things that I really like. I just like to see a nice straw-coloured beer. That's kind of my thing. I like them. Okay, maybe because... Oh, here we go. Hoddy is on Tahoma Dipper by Vocation. We're all on a
did I
vocation
have
kick
that?
at the minute. Do you know what I mean? Look at the glass. Vocation. There's a reason why I've got this.
The big
Citra
beers.
Mosaic Columbus. That sounds absolutely gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yeah,
I'm
that's,
sure I had
that's
that
another
weekend.
one, isn't it? It's like instead of the Cascade, chuck in Columbus. You kind of mixing a bit of that new school with the old school. I think it
Everybody
works.
loves a blueberry weed beer, don't they?
That's gonna be dank.
Yeah,
Blueberry and marijuana in your beer. Gorgeous.
that is Snoop Dogg in a can right there.
Yeah. Faux show.
He's got a range of wine out. Has anyone seen that in the shops recently?
Yes.
I had to do a double take when I was in Sainsbury's. I just looked down. I was, is that Snoop on that wine bottle? What's going on there?
Yeah, it's when I drive home, I drive down a specific road, and there's a big advertising hoarding, and it was advertising Snoop's wine at the end of last
Cali
academic
Red.
year. Yeah, pretty
Cali
cool.
White.
Amazing.
Is it my turn now, Owen? Have you finished?
Yeah, I've finished, mate. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So, as you can probably tell from my chat earlier on, I smashed the crap out of Vocation's 30% offer. Roll with it. Double dry hop pale ale. Mainly because of the fucking cool looking tortoise on there. On a skateboard in green. Looks amazing. Now, this is a double dry hop pale. Juicy hops, pillowy soft mouthfeel, the perfect beer for good times in life. This is dangerously drinkable, this beer, okay? 5.2%, and it's got a hop combination that my brain was screaming, you need to make a beer like this, you need to make a beer like this, you need to make a beer like this, which is Amarillo and Citra. Now, there's the beer, okay? Slightly darker on camera than it is in real life. This is quite a pale beer. It's soft, massive orange notes, and not fucking fleshy blood orange. Okay, this is like tangerine, mandarin,
Any pine, Chris?
teeny bit right at the end.
I find that with Amarillo, you get that tiny bit of pine.
Teeny bit, not at all unwelcome.
No, it's
Okay.
great. Like, yeah.
But when they say pillowy soft, this beer is soft. Okay? This is one of those beers that you drink and you just want to fall asleep on silk pillows. It's gorgeous. It's a beautiful, beautiful beer. Now, the thing that is really standing out to this, I alluded to a few seconds ago, is the amount of orange flavour that I'm getting from this. And it's like a tangerine mandarin, which
That's
falls into a
Amarillo.
wave of grapefruit, and then, as Andy quite rightly said, finishes off with just a tinge, just like a wee touch, just a tick of like
Yeah,
pine right at the end.
I've
This
brewed
is
quite a lot with Amarillo. Yeah,
it's a very well made beer, is this, and it's thick
such a
as
good
well.
combo. Citra will be bringing a lot of the kind of that citrusy juice that will be lifting up the Amarillo, and then it'll be punching through with the tangerine, I would imagine.
I think
I just get
the last
Sorry.
two commercial brewery orders I've made have both been Vocation,
yeah.
and my last one I bought was like a mixed case. It's 24 cans mixed case, and that was in there, and that was by far my favourite out of all of them.
It's a
The tall boys they do, they like all their high ABV beers are like amazing. Even like when I first got there was the small cans, like the core stuff. I wasn't that impressed with it, wasn't it? I was like, it's a bit wish wash. But actually, they've sat a wee bit, and I took them camping, and there was one that was just mosaic or something like that. It's what was it? See if I can find it. There it is. It's Heart and Soul. And
That's a great beer.
And it's almost vacant gesture, because it's
That's
like
their,
this.
that like original all mosaic pale, isn't it? That one?
Yeah.
It's one of their super core range.
Yeah,
We
it
should
was
have
really
asked Gary
good
how
actually.
much of that they make in a month, because I guarantee you it's a shed load.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's-
great beer.
This is a stunner. This is absolutely gorgeous. Made all the better by that absolutely wondrous can art. That is amazing. I
I'd
wish
say
the label came off this. That is just phenomenal. I love that can
It's
art.
only 5% as well, isn't it?
5.2%.
5.2%.
Yeah,
5.2.
it's a great beer.
Yeah.
As you can tell by the speed at which it's going down. It's amazing. It's just one of those beers. It says on it is dangerously drinkable.
Oh,
This is an absolutely smashable beer. On a warm evening with a fire pit in front of you, I could do serious damage to a 6-pack of this. This is such a nice beer. Very, 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 very drinkable. And I'm still surprised every time I take a sip of just these overwhelming waves of tangerine and mandarin that keep flowing through my mouth. It's almost like they brewed it with Voss. It's a cracking beer, this. It's really, really nice. In fact, it's so good, I think I'm going to order a 12-pack. I'm going to order a 12-pack of that. That's gorgeous. Anyway, we've asked, and our listeners, our wonderful, wonderful listeners, have replied with Crew Wolf is drinking Ultra Phase from North Brewing at 8.4%, and it's a dipper with Citra, Enigma, and Simcoe. Honeydew melon, green grape, and pink grapefruit. And this is the bit that I love the most. It tastes like a 1970s fruit salad in a tin. It's gorgeous. It's a bit too high on the ABV for me there, Crew, but however, I can appreciate that some people would really like that. And fruit salad in a tin sounds phenomenal.
I'll take that. Sounds great.
8.4 is a bit much. To be fair, I had all on drinking that pale ale of yours, Owen. Not that we had a small session on that day, but yeah.
We did. We enjoyed that, didn't we? In fact, that beer is what I submitted for the elusive competition in the
It was
end.
a great beer, that.
Yeah,
Great beer.
the
That
actual
Kolsch was
beer,
good, though.
Yeah, the Kolsch was alright. I'm still not totally sold on it. But
Send
the
me the
beer I
keg.
actually brewed for the elusive competition just never cleared up like I wanted it to.
No.
Still hasn't cleared.
Still,
No. No, I need to get it in a keg and just leave it for a while.
for those of you who are wondering, I took the family down. We stayed with Owen for a few days last weekend, and we did some serious damage to some beers on your kegerator, mate. As well as some serious damage to the amount of food that we cooked as well.
Yeah.
That was a good
That was
weekend.
a good weekend.
Yeah. So, commercial break over and done with. For some reason, Hoddy on the Poddy's trying to blame me for something. Yeah, he's put some biotransformation hops in early fermentation to try and aid some clarity. And he's blaming it on me, when in reality he should be blaming it on Lance Shayner from Omega. Yeah. Oh, here we go. Santa is drinking a beer that I can't pronounce because I don't speak Swedish, and it's a golden ale. Fruity light with a nice mouthfeel, and he's not sure whether he will drink an ale or a Bohemian Pilsner. And it's lovely. Sounds good to me. Golden ales are one of those long forgotten, long ignored styles of beer, though, aren't they?
Chris, I just want to apologise to our listeners. If you're watching on YouTube, the banners are not shown, or they're half shown, or so see just now, right? It took ages for that banner actually to come up, so it moved up on the YouTube, but then the longer you keep it there, Chris, it will finally show up on YouTube. There's something wrong with StreamYard
Yeah,
tonight.
some of them prior to that have been partially showing or disappearing and all sorts of other
really?
weirdness.
Yeah, so what to do is see if you put them up, Chris, leave them up for a bit longer, and
Okay.
it fixes itself.
Yeah,
And
and we'll
it will
just try
come
and
up.
read them out as well.
Yeah,
For the rest of them.
yeah.
Right. My apologies,
Anywho,
guys.
moving on. But yeah, thanks Thomas for contributing your commercial beer there as well.
We are having technical problems. Your call is important to us. Please hold the line.
Cool.
So, what's next, guys? We're going to talk about process refinement.
Oh,
So let's talk about mash efficiency. Because, of course, that has some form of cost saving, right?
It's gonna be
marginal.
Yeah, very
Marginal.
marginal. Yeah.
I don't know, the cost of grain, we were going on about it.
That's
Well,
true.
yeah,
At 80
actually,
quid a
nowadays it's getting more important.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Well, if you think about the fact that maybe, if you buy a 25 kilo sack of grain,
Yeah.
you might get... How many brews would you get out of a 25 sack? 25?
Well, why don't we
Five
talk...
for an average strength?
5 or 6?
Yeah.
So
5,
actually, if you
6,
get like a decent bump in, you might get an extra brew out of every 2 sacks.
yeah,
I
maybe.
think It depends, right? So some people, I think the worst case people see is maybe about a 68% brew house, right? If it's really poor, and then the best brew house efficiencies tend to be about anywhere between 85 and upwards to 90,
If you're
maybe.
getting 90, you're doing it wrong. I don't care. You don't want an efficiency that high. You're doing it wrong.
Because it's inconsistent when you get to that high is the problem I find. I tend to find that it's with the new mash tun I got, I do get much better efficiency, I must say, because your grain bed is actually it's much wider and like which the height of it is lower.
Surface area to volume ratio.
Oh, and you see the efficiency you get out of that's insane. Right, it does bump up now. So, but it's I think you're maybe seeing what a 10 to 20% improvement between kits. Whereas Gary Hughes gets 168% and it improves week on week.
We're having a little giggle at Gary's expense because he's always banging on about his efficiency.
We are gonna
B40.
give Gary some props later on for the solar sado.
When you factor in the solar power, it's basically
basically Gary's brewing for nothing.
Spray.
He's making beer for note.
He's actually the I say the DNO, but your provider, his electricity provider pays him money to brew.
I'm not sure if we can class a 10k solar array as a cost-effective improvement for the brewing, though. To be fair, might be pushing the limits a little bit.
You're talking about break even a lifetime.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Guile 2,671 into profit.
To be fair, Brooksy said it best when he says, "We pay Gary to brew beer."
Yeah.
Quite literally, we are paying Gary because he's pumping back into the grid.
Yep.
Good lads. Anyway, what
Generator.
were we talking about before we got distracted?
I don't know.
Mash efficiency.
Mash efficiency. So let's keep this short. Yes, if you improve your mash efficiency, you're going to use less grain, and therefore you
quick
might
question
make...
for all of you then, to keep it quick. What's the thing that's improved your mash efficiency the most?
Fly sparge slow, right? You need to go super slow on your fly sparge.
Mm-hmm.
Don't run it too fast. The slower you can get that to go and transfer into your kettle off your mash and sparge over the top, the slower you can get that, the better. And also use the whisk.
I said quickly. Come on, next.
The whisk. Sorry, but whisking it, during the mashing process.
Intermittent, like mixing it up. And definitely a good one.
I think no, you're not allowed to say anymore, Andrew. It was quick. I would say just grain crush. I think if you can,
you've nicked my one there.
crush your grain finer.
Did you see was it Brewlosophy YouTube channel did an experiment on that? You probably, I don't know if you've watched, but
Andy?
They actually did find a massive increase in efficiency with the grain crush.
It is a huge increase, that one. I will agree with you, Owen. That is a massive, massive increase. And I have noticed the difference from crushing my own grain to buying pre-crushed big time, like upwards of 10%.
I think go on, Chris, sorry.
No, it's fine, go on.
I was just going to say, it's kind of the thing with crushing your own grain is what you might tend to find, or what I've found after crushing a lot of grain, is that not all grain is equal.
No.
It's they're all different sizes, so it's kind of like there is no one setting on your grain mill that you can't just go, I always set it to this. It's a credit card size slot, right? Because that's not gonna. You've got to really be crushing a bit of grain, or at least look at the grain size, get an idea of how you need to set it, mill it, then just sort of take a sample and get a better idea of unless you're milling really fine, in which case set your grain mill to the finest you can
Put your
possibly
drill
go
allows.
and mill the crap out of it.
That can cause you problems if you're going for doing like a wheat beer, for example, and you're crushing it as fine as you would have been doing the normal barley and stuff, and then you're stuck mash kind of central after stuff like that potentially.
If you brew in the back, you can get incredible efficiencies in brewing your back because course, you're then like pulling it and squeezing the bag, and you're squeezing everything out.
It owes me money, bitch.
Yeah, I used to do that, and I used to get pretty good efficiencies. But
You just want, I think for us, it's more about consistent results that match up with what you are wanting alcohol wise, so that your hops and the design, your bitterness matches up and all that. But yeah.
Well, one thing that I will say at this point is I'm actually going to agree. It's not my point, but I'm going to agree with Brett when he says acidifying your sparge water. That is such a huge thing, and we have in the pipeline. I'm going to announce it now. We have in the pipeline a podcast where we're going to find some people to talk to, okay, and we're going to talk specifically about the pH through your brewing. We're going to do it because it's a massive, massive, massive thing, okay? We're not going to try and cover it whilst we don't know as much as we should.
Yeah.
But we're going to say that is going to be an upcoming podcast, people. I'm going to point directly into the camera. That's an upcoming podcast about pH through your brewing process.
We when we had Adam makes beer on, Adam said to me about acidifying the sparge water on the pod, and I was like, well, I don't do that. So that's something, since he said that to me, I have been doing, and maybe it tied in with my efficiency in the new kit. I don't know, but I do get great efficiency.
Could be. Chris, did you have anything to add on the efficiency, your best efficiency increase?
Recirculating my mash.
Yeah. You've all stolen the ones I was literally in order.
I'm sorry.
All of mine.
I've got a
what else can I
correct
say?
Stroke the barrel, Tricky.
What else can I say? Oh, minimizing losses in your mash tun is a really easy way to increase the efficiency of it, because if you are losing 2, 3, 4 plus liters at the bottom of your mash tun, that's going to obviously reduce your efficiency potentially by quite a significant margin. So
if you're
making sure you can get everything that you get out there. Well, I mean, it depends on the design of your mash tun, right? So if you've got a sort of inefficient, some of the filter methods where you've got like a dome on the bottom and then the pickup tube is on a raised point, you can have quite a bit of dead space in your mash tun. So getting something where you've got effectively the equivalent like a bottom draining mash tun is always going to make a big difference for your efficiency. In a lot of all-in-ones, like the brew tools, for example, they have like a bottom drain on them, don't they, Owen? So that's going to be like by default, but you see a lot of other.
As in, you pull it out.
Well, just so that you're getting literally all the liquid out the bottom of the mash tun at the end, rather than leaving it. So if you've got a side on tap, for example, you're gonna have dead space below that, even if you've got unless you've kind of.
But this is mashing, so it's in that mesh. You've got that. It's like brewing a bag. It's almost like you're pulling it out and it's all draining out. So you 100% of your brew. Yeah.
Can I just say at this point? Sorry, Owen. I've got to say at this point, the easiest way to increase the efficiency of your mash is to stop being a bell end and just do brew in the bag.
Nah, fuck off.
Because you're not going to lose anything.
Sorry for.
I'm not going to lose anything, but you're fucking wrong, Andy. So you're not going to lose anything.
Whatever. Right on, go.
Yeah, I was just going to say about kind of all-in-ones, a bit like the B80 and the brew tool systems where you kind of lift the basket up. Most all-in-ones work that way. As I actually tend to find where I have quite a large surface area on the B80 and it all drains out the bottom, I tend to find that when you sparge, the water just drains through so fast that that seems to harm my efficiency a bit. So I need to find kind of a slightly better way. I know some people kind of recirculate, kind of water down the wort and then recirculate with that, and they kind of are able to wash more of the sugars out. In fact, I used to get better efficiency when I used to use the watering can than I did with any other kind of sparge solutions that brew tools have come out with, which are all a bit naff. So that's an area of my brewing that's a bit tricky, but at the end of the day, I don't really mind that much because it's an extra £1 of malt or whatever,
yeah, this is true.
£1 £2. I don't know.
Well, it's now £3.
It's now £7 based on prices.
It'll be £80 in a year's time.
I mean, that's a little bit harsh, Richie Brooks. Plug in your
top
power supply
tip.
to your elderly neighbour system.
Well,
Let's not do that. We're not
Run
going
your
to condone
extension
it.
lead over the fence.
Yeah, plug it into the street lighting column.
Oh, that'd work, wouldn't it? No, there's lots of things that you can do to improve your mash efficiency, as we've just talked about. And to be fair, cost-effective wise, I definitely think that there's a lot of improvements that you can make that are near on the same amount of cost. I agree with Andy with the slow sparging. As much as I give him shit because of his beard, it is a good one. A slow sparge works much better. Acidifying that sparge water really fucking helps. Okay, that really, really, really helps. However, it does mean that you can't go as far with your sparge as you normally would, because you're going to hit 10-10 and hence start pulling through astringency if you do it that way. Swings and roundabouts, all that kind of thing.
At our level.
But I do think that, having a bag, squeezing it like it owes you money, that's a good way. There's a lot of things that you can do that are all cost effective. They're going to cost you very little. Just doing it and making sure that you do it right is, that's a good way to do it. The next one is going to cause people to start having palpitations, and it's going to cause people to start twitching and a lot of people to start disconnecting. But adjusting your water profile with small amounts, with the right additives, getting your water appropriate, getting it the way that it's supposed to be. An RO system and a few salts can save you a whole host of heartache moving forward. That is the single greatest improvement that you can make to your brewing for every single style, is to make sure that the water profile is bang on, is doing what it's supposed to be. And RO systems are so cheap these days that, for me, that is just a really, really important thing to understand. Water is 95% of your beer. Make sure that that water is correct.
I think also we talked a bit about pH on sparge, but also the pH of your mash is a key one for efficiency as well.
Owen, this is going to be a podcast. Don't give it all away, man.
Okay.
No, that's a given. I think mash pH has been one that we have always, we always try and target to get 5.2, 5.4 type, but there's so much more to it now. I think we were talking about acidifying your sparge, and then it's like, oh, what's your actual pH of the beer going into the whirlpool, and like talking about dry hops and stuff. Yeah, that's another pod, definitely.
There's a lot of science to that, but
yeah, it's good.
Adjusting your pH, right? But the RO system, if you're talking about improvement, a big jump of improvement to your beer, particularly if you like to make pale beers or you like to make hoppy beers, and you're in a particularly hard water area, which I know a lot of people are in the UK, an RO water system is, a great way.
Just move to Scotland, you don't need to buy an RO, that's cheaper. And the houses are cheaper as well. There's a cost-effective improvement.
There's one option.
Move to somewhere with a soft water supply.
Depends how many times you have to rewire it, Andy.
That's true.
Can I mention also with the RO system, if you collect the outflow, the red tube, from your RO system into a water butt, your plants will thank you when you water them with that water. The additional salts and the additional minerals really make plants grow very, very well. I found an increase in the size of the carrots that I grew this year. I know it's only carrots, but we eat a lot of carrots. The carrots were so much bigger, okay, because of the fact that we were watering them from the water, because I collect all my effluent flow from, and I collect an RO into a water butt, and we were watering our plants with that, and all the minerals and all the bits and bobs that are in it go into the soil, and the plants absorb it, and they absolutely love it. The carrots were fucking huge. Some of them were mutant, don't get me wrong. There was a bit of an X-Men, like Deadpool thing going off with some of them. But my
Extra
God, they
chlorine.
were so good. They were so good. I love carrots.
Yorkshire.
There you go. So RO, check out an RO system. Seasonal brewing. I know it's often a fun topic to chat about. I know Chris is not a big fan of seasonal
Fuck
brewing.
seasonal
Hey,
brewing.
he put this in the notes. This is
but-
Chris's comment.
Get
this is-
fucked. No, I didn't.
This
You
is
did?
more
Yeah, it was
from
definitely
the
Chris's comment.
perspective.
Give
Yeah.
up.
This is the
I'm denying that
perspective of being cost effective is brewing lagers in winter when you're fermenting at a lower temperature, so you're not having to kick in
Yeah, that's
your
great. Yeah.
fermentation fridge quite as much. Makes sense.
Or your glycol.
Brewing a Kvike beer at 38 degrees C, probably better done in the summer.
Yeah.
Right, same kind of logic. So there is a little bit of, I mean, I don't know how much those little tube heaters eat up.
It makes a lot of sense in this place, right? Because my fermenters are not in a fridge, so you do lose a lot more out of the fermenter. So, like, try to brew lagers in the summer is a bit of a nightmare because that glycol chiller is on full pelt, and so I actually would rather not. I did all my lager brewing kind of earlier in this year, so then it was a bit cooler in here, and I definitely agree with that sentiment, and especially just now with the cost of electricity, it's just nuts.
I
Yeah,
think, and there are certain points in the year where you could probably be brewing a lager and it doesn't even need to be in a firm fridge. You know, if it's somewhere with a relatively stable temperature and it's run roughly 10 to 12 degrees in there, then you're probably hot to try, aren't you? And then once you want to start warming it up, put it in the firm fridge and have your temp control. Equally as if it's height of summer and it's boiling, then get your saisons
Quite.
on.
Yeah, wild
your
beers,
gripes.
saisons, get all your funky stuff in there in the summer. Makes sense,
That's it.
doesn't it?
Yeah.
It does from a cost standpoint, right? But equally, it's like we don't want to be limited, do we? By
you want to drink lagers in the summer, so
yeah, you do.
Well,
But
yeah.
it does allow them to
But then if
sit.
you've brewed it in the winter, it will be ready properly in time for the summer, won't it?
oh, it depends how much of an alcoholic you are. So
Well, yeah. If you can leave the
nothing-
keg alone for that long.
There's nothing better than a 1-year-old alt beer.
oh, yeah, 'cause it's proper conditioned.
Exactly, mate. Now, I do remember talking about that in the notes, so I did deny it. I will take that back, and I will say that definitely.
So I thought it was a
wasn't me.
great. When you mentioned it, Chris, I was like, I totally agree with that.
It's more for the cooling process. It's more for if you're on a water meter and you've got to chill that beer down. Do it in February when there's ice coming out your tap. Just run that through your work chiller. You know, that's really going to help to get you down to 12 degrees. But yeah, that seasonal brewing, as much as I hate to brew by calendar, I'm going to brew whatever the fuck I want whenever I want.
Yeah,
I do think that there is some logic to brewing lagers in sort of February and March.
right. Yeah,
Cold water, you get it chilled easier, you can brew it easier, it gives it time to condition. You know, it's going to do what it's meant. You're going to lager the fucking beer, aren't you, really, rather than just messing about. I think that's definitely a big thing. I don't remember who put this next one on. Was it? I think it was Tricky who said this next one in the notes. No, must have been Andy then, because it definitely weren't me.
Oh, me, the brewfather, and take notes in the brew book. Yeah, it's just basically it's an improvement. It can be cost effective because brewfather's pretty damn cheap, and you can find out how to brew great beers. You can get recipes on it through your friends, like we've been sharing tonight, like different recipes. But just taking notes in your book, it's so cheap to do, right? And just keeping notes, that'll improve your brewing no end, because you'll start to see patterns. You'll recognise things. If you start taking all your kind of gravities and stuff, you'll start to see what your brew house efficiency actually is over for different beers. So you can maybe look back and say, right, well, I did that beer. What kind of efficiency did I get? And then you can tweak it, sort of thing, as well. So just notes, take notes, get a cheap brew book, and yeah, start learning from your brewing to
Yeah.
improve.
I think that like Brewfather subscription is again one of those where it's like for that amount of money you put in decent
cheap.
quality software, so good, you know,
Yeah.
so
Great
worthwhile.
software.
And if you can be bothered to actually fill in all the details, you can track everything on there as well, like, you know, to a really decent degree. So that, yeah, similar to like where you're talking about the brew book, you can see those patterns more clearly and see how your plan is matching up to what actually happens in the batch recipe and all the rest of it. So I think that's definitely a really good investment wise for as far as the software and everything goes.
Brooks has just raised a really good point, which I'm going to put up because it's quite hilarious. Stop paying for Brewfather, calculate it all manually, and boom, you save 20 quid a year, which is half a sack of cheap grain.
You're going to lose 3,000 hours doing those calculations. But
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and all your beer's
Time
going
is
to
money.
taste absolutely rotten.
Time is
And you'll be
money.
like, why didn't I hit my
Yeah.
estimated
Why
brew?
is my session beer
Where's
like
what we-
12% ABV? What's going on here?
Absolutely. I do think one of the things that we need to sort of point out here, I know we're at the end of sort of section 3, but one of the things that I will say is each one of these steps, whilst yes, it's probably only going to save you a little bit of money, all of these steps are going to make your beer better. Some of them are going to save you money. It's the Olympic cycling team had a saying, each improvement is only 2%, but 5 of those improvements is 10%. 10 of those improvements is 20%. If you can reduce the cost of your brewing by 20% and make it 15% better, would you feel good? Is that something that's going to flick your bean, tickle your fancy? Is it going to be the anal feather which really sort of makes you feel good? Is that what it's going to be? The bottom line is a lot of these things, tiny incremental gains, but those tiny incremental gains really help as you're moving forward. And I know for a fact, if I could save a £5 on each batch of my beer, I would be an incredibly happy man. And more importantly, so would my wife.
Indeed.
Everybody's stuck on the anal feather part, aren't they?
Yeah,
Well,
still struggling
also-
with that one, to be fair.
It's interesting though, but see, because I brew the double batch and a keg goes to my brother, I calculate how much it costs for that batch, and so it has jumped. I think I could brew a batch previous, maybe it's just shy of 20 quid, and it's now probably about £30 for a batch of a decent, hopped APA or something like that. There's been big jumps, 50% increase in cost.
Still cheaper than buying fucking cans from the supermarket, though. It tastes
You
a
buy it
damn
from the
sight
supermarket,
better.
it's going to be like, I don't know, 80 to £100.
Well, go to like the smaller bottle shops and stuff like that. That's where you see the real like shocking
Yeah.
increases.
£14
in cost.
for an imperial stout.
£7 quid for a
that's
pint.
not even exaggerating. Like 14 quid for big impy in a can, as standard in some of them.
It's one of those things.
Even like IPAs and dippers and stuff pushing 10 quid in some places. So
I went on to
Crazy.
Which website? Somebody was talking about a brewery. I think it might have been 360. I went onto their web shop and I was having a look at. I can't remember if it was 360. It might have been. I went on there and I had a look, and there were some imperial stouts and some triple IPAs at £14 a can. In fact, I don't think it was 360 degree. It was some other brewery. Like £14 for a can. I could brew 2 batches of beer for £14.
No, you couldn't.
Oh,
That's
I
what I
can.
was saying. Well,
Okay,
it
you can.
depends. Chris, if it's, but you factor in all your electricity costs, so you're running your fridge and all that. That might be ingredient cost.
Yeah, ingredient
But
costs.
you
only, obviously.
I'm talking about the full actual cost is
Okay, I
'cause-
can brew a batch of beer for that cost then.
definitely,
Even if I include everything else. One batch
if it's
of
a
beer
lot,
for 12
yeah,
quid, easy to do.
well, it's not going to be the equivalent beer to that
No.
beer that's costing you 15 quid.
It's
but
gonna have
the
some
point's
bittering
the same,
But I'm
hops.
getting
right?
And a
40
wee bit-
pints as opposed to 440
Yeah,
mil.
I mean
Yeah.
that's you can't argue with that. To be
you're
fair.
maybe brewing, I don't know, flipping some
Kolsch.
golden ale or something, or a
Kolsch.
Kolsch or a wheat beer.
Yeah.
Great
Yeah.
examples of a really cheap brew.
Yeah, and they're still good beers. They still taste great.
Oh, well, it's all about yeast.
That's the thing, though, isn't it? Now, we're going to move on. 2 hours in. Let's get this one done.
To be fair, I think we've covered most of Section 4 already because you're going to jump ahead to that bit.
No,
so,
I wasn't. I was going to completely skip over Section 4 because we have covered that.
Yeah.
Well,
that's what I'm saying.
Okay, we have covered it, Andy. I mean, seriously, homemade equipment, yeah. Buy a
we
twin
did.
chiller.
Yeah, kegging, close press.
Kegging, everybody knows about kegging. Temperature control, yes, you can do it, but building a fermentation chamber in this day and age is going to cost you £1 billion.
No, like a fermentation chamber. No, like buying a cheap fridge.
That's still a cheap thing to do.
Building a fermentation chamber, not modifying a fridge.
Oh.
Building a fermentation chamber. By the time you've bought your insulative board, you've put it all together, you've stuck it, you've put a heater in, and £1 billion at least.
To be fair, I think that's Chat GPT doing the literally build it from scratch version.
Yeah.
Than with,
It'd probably be cheaper to just buy a separate house.
yeah.
Dylan did it. Dylan did it recently.
What, bought a separate house?
No, he built he built his
he built
own
a brew house. Yeah.
He built a fermentation. He did. It wasn't a fermentation chamber. It was more of a conditioning chamber thing. He built.
Yeah, it was like a cool room thing.
Yeah, but then he built it all and he gave you the cost. I don't know, it was like £100 or £200 in materials, right? Or 120. I can't remember, right? It was roughly something like that. But then he totally missed out that there was a glycol chiller involved as well, and it's like, yeah, that's, you know, to buy a glycol chiller, you could be $250. Like for one of those little maxi ones, you $250, $300 on. Depends who you get. You might pick one up, but yeah, it's not cheap.
And I'll be honest, I've just been told to shut the fuck up by Brett, so I'm just going to shut the fuck up. I'll put that message up and I'm just going to shut the fuck up. You guys crack on. Do the end of it.
I'm not sure that's what he said.
I don't think that was directed specifically at you, but anyway. So we've covered...
Well, pressure fermentation
pretty much all of
we haven't
that.
talked about. Pressure fermentation
We
is
haven't,
an option if you're back to the whole kind of seasonal brewing thing. You probably could brew lagers at a warmer temperature, so you can use pressure fermentation to do
And
that.
nowadays, with all rounders and
So
all the rest
that's
of it, it's a
always-
very accessible price point for everyone. So I think that is cost effectiveness wise. I think we've all talked about it before, saying it's made a big difference in some cases.
Yeah, I think so. So I think we might have covered this already, but we had a little round robin on our personal choices for biggest cost-effective improvements in our brewing. What do we have? Andy, I think you've already covered yours.
Yeah, Brewbook.
Feel free, Brewbook. That is a pretty cheap option. What's that, like £6 off Amazon?
Yeah, Amazon.
Or in fact, just
Go get one.
Just buy a notebook at the pound shop. Done. Chris talks about his RO system. To be fair, that's a huge leap in improvement in quality of the beer, in my opinion. For a relatively small cost, you can pick up an RO system for what? I got mine second hand off someone that owned an aquarium. I think I got mine for £20, and it's still running strong now. 3 or 4 years later. Tricky.
Yeah, so we were literally just talking about it, but I mean, for me, I would have probably potentially said the RO system that I got as well, but obviously Chris already pinched that one. But all rounder for me, pressure fermentation for, just under £100 for everything that I needed to start pressure fermenting. Made a massive difference to doing lagers and hoppy beers for me. One of those where it was like instant noticeable step up, for a lot less money than a lot of other things, which, I mean, for me, it's like what I come back to is kind of like I could spend loads of money going like for a really big kind of expensive stainless steel, brewing system, but actually that like fairly basic kind of plastic fermenter probably made a bigger difference to me than upgrading the kettle, mash tun, HLT, whatever. That kind of all works the same, whatever it's made of. But pressure fermentation, big step up for me.
I would agree. I think we'd all agree on that, apart from Andy, who has to have shiny stuff because he's a Scottish magpie. I'm gonna say a pH meter.
That's a great
and
one.
some acids to adjust your pH in your mash.
Really good.
I think
shout.
like that, especially if you're making hoppy beers, getting your pH right in the mash is just a surefire way of making
massive
better
flavour
beer.
improvement. Yeah,
And that's only going to cost you, I don't know, 30 quid tops.
Yeah. And you
If
really don't need to like get fully into water treatment or
No.
chemistry to do that. You can literally just measure it, adjust, basically do it on the fly.
Get some lactic acid or get some phosphoric acid and a pH meter. Done. Just get it into 5.2 to 5.5-ish range and you're going to be a lot happier.
See for homework when we go to do this pH one, right? The episode. Try dosing check the final like the pH of your beer, right, and see what they're all at, and then even try dosing like a little bit to like lower it, just a smidge or whatever to take it down to, I don't know, 4 point. You might find the beers are between 4.4, 4.9. I think was generally where they were sitting. Right, you can try. So say one that's at 4.9, you could dose it with a little bit of lactic and see what that does to the drinkability. If it pulls you in more for, especially at the hoppy beers, you can find that it pulls you in, sort of thing. It's worth a wee bit of research maybe before we do that one. And everyone else at home, give it a go.
Yeah, sounds smart. So those are our, in summary, hot tips on cost-effective improvements. Now,
I think one of the comments Brett says about, right, do we actually do it? I genuinely think, see now, with the way the costs have been spiralling, I genuinely look at these cost improvements, like things like I said earlier, about buying the yeast, right? Or my grains. Like just now, I've spent a lot of time actually looking about to see where I can get cheaper grains, and I'm thinking, do I need to get in touch with, say, like Overtone, because I've built a relationship? Maybe I go and speak with Dan and say, any chance I could actually get 4 sacks of malt or something at 27 or 25 quid? Or do I, say to Dell and a few of the other boys, anyone want to chip in for fuel to go up to Crafty Maltsters and we just fill the car up with malt? Anything to drill down the cost, because it's getting silly. And hop costs, recently we were facing, like, if you wanted it, bulk buying no longer was going to give you a reduction. Well, they've changed that, so you can still now go back and bulk buy your hops. There's different options, but everything's so bloody expensive.
I think I would agree with that, Andy. And I do think that there is an element of, as homebrewers, we are a little bit magpie-ish when it comes to wanting to brew different styles and constantly wanting to try the newest of everything when it comes out, new hops, new malts, new whatever. For me personally, if I actually focused on not spending anything on ingredients or home brewing, I reckon I could probably brew for another year if I just used all the malt I've got, which is probably 3 25 kilo sacks plus adjuncts coming out of my ears, and then all the hops in my freezer, and the number of yeasts I've got slanted in dry yeast, in wet yeast, that I could probably brew for a year without spending any money. So I think something
will run out. Your gypsum will run out.
Well, okay, right, fine. If I have to spend 4 quid on something,
and then you have to make up the free delivery cost.
Well, that's not the point. I think the
cost-effective improvement.
My point is that we could actually be more I certainly could be more cost-effective if that was the focus.
Yeah.
And actually use up what I've got.
But we don't do that as homebrewers.
if you were to stick to a kind of zero inventory brewing method, but that's of course not what you want to do, because you never you're never organised enough for that. I'm always like, I want enough inventory that I can brew
something
78 different styles of beer within 2 days. You know what I mean? So
This is the point though that we're all missing. Okay, we can do this and we can save money, and they will help to improve your beer, and they will help in the long term to save you a bit of money. So your beers are going to cost less, even though they are going to get slightly better, which sounds counterintuitive based on the world that we live in, but that is the reality. Honestly, if I was to stop buying anything right now, I would be sorted for probably 18 months. For grain, for yeast, for hops, for salts, all of that. I'm sorted for probably 18 months for my brewing. Yeah. And that would be assuming I brewed once every 3 weeks. Just doing some rough maths in my head. We don't do that as home brewers. We want the latest and greatest thing. We have a conversation with somebody and we go, shit, I want to brew that beer. I want to brew that style. I want one of them on keg. That's what it is. Now, all of these things that we've been talking about today will improve your beer. They will save you a little bit of money. They're not going to apply to everyone. And yes, there is a sense of deja vu. Like Brett's just said, I just needed a piss. The bottom line is, irregardless of anything else, by making a few changes, we can save money and we can make our beer better. We can make it more consistent, which I think is probably the word we should be looking at, rather than better. Consistent. Because some people are just shit brewers. No matter which way you slice it, they're crap at it. But this is the thing. All of the things we talked about are going to help you save money, and they're going to make your beer a bit better. And is that something that applies to only new brewers? No, it's not. Alan round the corner, right? Fuck me, that boy could take at least 12 of the things that we've talked about today, put them into practice and make better beer. All right? I'm sorry, Fuggles Lager is not a fucking thing. This is the point that we're trying to make. This is the point that we're trying to make. And all of these things, when added together, will do that for you. That's why we did this podcast. That's why we did it. Everybody's nodding. Nobody's saying
we are, yeah.
Yeah,
I think that was
wonderful.
Nods
I'm telling you,
agreement.
Are we finished?
Yeah, we are finished. That's
like
the point I'm trying to make.
I think we're exhausted.
What we're going to do right now is I'm going to fire up a Jitsi meet for the after party for everybody to join, because that's what we do. And I have a feeling that there's going to be some conversation that goes off after this one. Oh, really? What? No, it doesn't work. What? It doesn't. Jitsi meet doesn't work anymore.
Why is that?
Hey?
I don't know.
Is it not?
I've just gone to Jitsi. Oh, I'll tell you why it doesn't work. Because I'm doing it on Chrome. Right. I've got to do this.
Good. No, everyone's saying that Jitsi's broken. What's the other one that you can use then?
I don't know.
Where you know?
I don't know. Is Jitsi, seriously, you guys used it for the live brew day today. Is it not working at all? You know what we might have to do then? But it's going to fuck a few people. Right, somebody find an alternative to Jitsi whilst I do the closing. Yeah, Ninja. Somebody, Tricky. Do a video.ninja meetup, will you? Can you set one up?
Jesus,
right.
That's been a while. Hang on.
Amateurs. I work with fucking amateurs.
That was always funny when it got to a certain limit, though, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Why is Jitsi not working?
What about Google Meets or whatever? Is that
yeah.
Right?
Oh, Google Hangouts.
Yeah,
yeah.
That's the one. It's not.
Right, Tricky's going to sort that out, and he's going to post a link in the chat. We're going to post it on Discord so that Santa can join us. And basically, we're going to say goodbye to everybody. I don't have Zoom. Does anybody have a paid Zoom account anymore?
Oh, dear.
Tricky's going to have hell on editing the end of this podcast, isn't he?
Oh, dear.
Right, everybody just give me 2 seconds of silence. Thanks for joining us for episode 75 of the Hop Edition, where we've talked about cost-effective ways to improve your brewing. If all of you want to, listen to this, join us, be a supporter of the podcast, go to Facebook, give our page a like. We're on there under the Hop Edition podcast. Want to say a big thank you to all of our Patreons. You guys are really helping us out, and we've got some big things in the works which are going to come up, and we're gonna let you guys know about that over the next few weeks. We've got some wonderful guests which I'm currently in conversation with, trying to get them to come on the podcast. But next weekend, for those of you who are listening live right now, next weekend at 9 p.m, we have the guys from Keg King in Australia coming through, joining us. We're going to be talking about all of their brewing gear, all of their fermenters, which I know Mr. Brooks, who's currently in the chat right now, speaks very highly of their fermenters, and I've got one sitting in a box behind me. We need these guys on. We're going to talk to these guys, but thanks for joining us. Episode 75 is in the bag. We're done. Everybody say goodbye.
Cheers, everyone. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.
I was going to say, Andy, don't mute yourself then say goodbye. That won't work. We're going to stay live on YouTube for a few seconds, but we are out. Hop Edition. See you later. Bye. Excellent. Right, that's the audio sorted for Tricky. Let's get this Google Meet set up, and people can jump on and join us.
Yeah, the link's
And
in the chat.
The link's in the chat. The link, is it on Discord yet, Trick?
I'm just trying to do that now.
Podcast announcement, and then people can jump on and join us. Oh, yeah, to be fair, Crew Wolf just made a really good point. Cost-effective brewing podcast makes you want to spend money in the morning.
Does.
It's like every podcast that we do. There's always something to spend money on. Tricky's posting the links everywhere, so feel free to join us. If you know somebody who wants to jump on, send them the link. And let's hope that Google Meet actually fucking works. Right.
If it doesn't, I might be able to get a Zoom.
You're going to have to let me in, though, Tricky.
Oh, yeah.
Tricky.
Sorry. I wasn't aware that I had to admit people. Hello?
I can't join until I leave this.
Right, hang on. Is my
Tricky, we can't join it until we leave.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
StreamYard.
am I still uploading? I've got so many fucking windows.
Well, we
open.
need
I
to
need
stop.
to end the broadcast. I'm ending the
I'm totally
broadcast. Bye,
confused.
YouTube. See you later. Love you all.
Oh, we've not even